everyone, and welcome to another commentary podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Yes, indeed. We are back once again for another commentary. So we haven't done one of these in a long time, Dan and I together, and I haven't been putting these out much lately anyway. So yes, you are getting a couple of these in a row. How exciting is that? Today, we're going to watch and discuss The Empire Strikes Back. This is, I want to say, Dan, this is both my and your favorite Star Wars film, yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is my favorite Star Wars movie.
I mean, that's that's not impressive, right? That's
Yeah,
not
it's
unusual.
an easy pick.
That's not unusual or anything. That's most people say that. But anyway, but I just stress that to say that we're both very excited to talk about this movie. And as I said last time we did Star Wars, I'm not a giant Star Wars guy, as everybody knows, and I was surprised by what I remembered and what I kind of sort of knew doing the last one. I think Dan really did help get me through that. Thanks, Dan.
No problem.
But I had a really great time.
time.
I had a really great time discussing that because I've always been apprehensive about doing Star Wars. I'm not a big Star Wars guy, but I've gotten requests for it forever. And now we're back doing Empire Strikes Back, and I feel a little bit better about it because we had a really good time with the last one. So it'll be interesting to see what kinds of things pop up talking about this. And as I said last time, also I usually watch the original theatrical versions, which I have the old kind of like VS dub off or VHS dub off from my old DVDs, which are most people don't have, and I guess they're hard to get or whatever now. And so Dan doesn't have that, so we're going to be watching, of course, the special editions, which more people can get their hands on and watch with us anyway. So I'm going to be, like I was the last time, kind of excited to see what stuff they did with the special editions that I don't remember. I think I've seen this in special edition one time, and I do remember Cloud City they did kind of some neat things with, but the rest of it, I don't really remember what they did special edition-wise with it. So
Boba Fett's voice, it's so painful.
I can't wait to hear you complain. All right, Dan, any preamble you'd like to put forth before we get started?
I mean, I don't know. Star Wars, when I was a kid, was a big part of my childhood, and it's still a relatively big part of my life as a fan of geeky things, I suppose. So this film being my favorite of all of them had like a large effect on me, and this is one of my favorite movies ever. So I'm very excited to sit down and talk about it with you. It should be a good time.
As always, if you have never watched this before, if you've never watched a commentary with us before, what we do is we watch the film while we're talking about it. So grab your DVD or your HD DVD. Yes, yeah. Because it's 2004. We haven't decided yet.
Yeah, we're watching this on my HD DVD hookup to my Xbox 360 that I paid $150 for.
And I have it on Laserdisc. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, grab your DVD, your Blu-ray, or however you're watching this. Get it past all the menus, and also all the extra attractions at the beginning, like the THS logo and all that stuff. Get it to timestamp 0, and then get ready to press play as soon as I say now. If you'd like to, of course, as always, you can listen to us as just a straight-up podcast, and Dan and I will do our level best to give you as much context as humanly possible for the film. If you've seen it before, you should be able to follow us with no problem, and if you haven't seen The Empire Strikes Back before, I hope it's because you're 5 years old.
I agree.
All right, Dan, are you ready to get started?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now.
It's going to be very strange not seeing a 20th Century Fox logo in front of the next Star Wars movies that come out.
It is. It's going to be weird.
See, Lucasfilm was wholesale bought by Disney, so I would still imagine we'll have the Lucasfilm one, but...
yeah, that shouldn't... I would be very surprised if that wasn't there. In fact, I think there's already been Lucasfilm logos, like, attached to some of the preliminary stuff they've put out.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I could be wrong about that, but I'm like, we're still seeing the Lucasfilm logo on other things that Disney's putting out, so...
Yeah, true, and... I don't know how that deal exactly went down because they got into Indiana Jones later than they got Star Wars. I don't know. That whole deal was weird, but they own every property that at least has some sort of fan base that Lucasfilm had.
So when this movie came out, how big of a deal was it that people got to see this crawl again?
It must have been
people got
awesome.
to see a crawl again. Yeah, yeah.
I
mean, you probably wouldn't even be 100% sure that it would be exactly the same kind of opening, right? Like, how would you know?
No, you wouldn't know. And, like, One of the things that's so interesting about this movie that I talked about when we were reviewing or I was reviewing the Star Wars comic that Dark Horse was doing. Like when I was a kid, it didn't even occur to me at all that much time had passed between the first movie and this one. But there is actually a significant amount of time and events like that are summarized here that I just never really thought about, I suppose. Um, and that's an interesting way to do a film series, considering, what we do today. Like, a lot of the movies pick up right after, maybe not even seconds after the events of the first one.
Yeah, or at least a few days or a couple weeks or a month or something.
Yes.
But yeah, pretty close. Now, I said that you certainly would hope if you're thinking about this kind of thing, that it would have a crawl and have a similar opening, given that these are playing again like film serials. So this is the next installment. Certainly, it's longer than your average film serial was, but it's playing with that idea and it's going back to all of that. So the last one ended on not really a cliffhanger, but things you knew things could continue, and this one, of course, does end on just a straight up cliffhanger. There's going to be another one. Come back next week, or years.
Yeah, exactly. And we even the opening of this scene here with the Star Destroyer and we're shooting pods down onto the surface of a planet is very similar to the opening of the first movie, and it's just the opposite climate we're launching pods into, desert versus snow planet.
That's a great point. So you've got this totally different kind of atmosphere,
Hmm.
and somehow, or rather, it feels creepier.
It does, yeah. Especially when you see the
It's
droid popping out
colder,
there.
Dan.
Yeah.
I had never noticed. You totally make fun of me because I'm not a giant Star Wars fan, so I'm sure a lot of Star Wars fans probably have the opening crawls memorized because there's not a lot of words there. But I never noticed that the probes are mentioned in the opening crawl.
Yeah, I mean, I never had the words memorized either, but that is kind of cool. And there's Mark Hamill in all of his Luke Skywalker glory. Luke's my favorite character out of all the Star Wars characters. I was a Luke kid back in the
So
day.
right away, we see that he is fully entrenched in helping out the rebellion now, and nobody has any doubt of what he's doing. Whatever he's doing here, it's probably something against the rebellion. I mean, it's probably something helping the rebellion against the Empire.
Yeah, exactly. And like we kind of set up Luke here, and that's somewhat like his character arc in the movie. Like he's a little bit overconfident because of how successful he was in blowing up the Death Star, and that's ultimately his undoing. And it almost causes him to die at the end when that lightsaber duel with Vader. He still has a lot to learn. And we see the Tauntaun get murdered there. And I think it's so funny that they make sleeping bags where you can unzip the Tauntaun and see its guts printed on the
Oh
inside of the
my god,
sleeping bag.
really?
Yes.
That's so wrong. But like, we don't think anything of it because everything in this is so iconic that even the guts of the Tauntaun are iconic and appropriate for children.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I wonder if it would have occurred to anybody, like how hostile of an environment and how far away everybody is from him until he gets hit there. Because like it doesn't really, it didn't really occur to me the first time I saw it when I was a kid, like that there was any danger, and then immediately it's like, oh crap, he's gonna freeze to death. I mean, like they start us off in like a really kind of scary and big huge problematic place at the beginning of this.
Yeah, they start you off in a seemingly hopeless situation, which is kind of like, how the rebellion is throughout the whole movie. A lot of precedents set just with this opening scene, just like the first movie. The first
Yeah.
movie establishes the power of the Empire with the big Star Destroyer that's shot from underneath in the small rebel ship. Same kind of thing going on here. Very smart storytelling, I think.
Well, also it's kind of cool to see them sort of against the elements a little bit, I suppose.
Hmm.
Because I mean, like again, you've got the vast desert wasteland at the beginning. Like there's a lot of, I guess, all throughout Star Wars. There's a whole lot of kind of terrain that's really treacherous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Like you got the sand people in the first movie, or what are they
yeah,
called?
the Sand People. They're called Tusken Raiders or Sand People. You can call them either one.
Yeah, the Tusken Raiders.
And the rebel base on Yavin 4 was an all jungle planet, which is obviously treacherous too. We didn't really like explore that all that much because they were in the base most of the time. But Star Wars will usually take like an Earth terrain and make a whole planet out of it. That's kind of a thing.
And of course, we've seen action figures of every one of these characters in every one of these outfits.
Yes, yes, we have. I even have one of Han Solo in this outfit on my dresser over there.
Oh, of course you do. And I've seen that Leia.
Yeah, I
And
actually
I've probably seen that guy walking down the hallway, and that guy carrying a chest coming across around the corner.
yeah, and they probably gave him a name too, which is really funny.
Yeah, it was probably like Fango Artillery. Oh, and here comes Goss Pork Mike coming down the. You remember good old Goss Pork Mike?
Yes. They recently made a like giant statuesque bust of Porkins, the pilot
Goss
from Return of the
Mike?
Jedi who gets killed, and he's just a fat dude named Porkins who
There's a guy named Porkins, and I said Pork Mike? That's amazing.
yeah. And I just thought it was so funny that, and it was the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive item for Star Wars this year. It was like, oh man, everyone's coming out to buy a Porkins statue.
Who was excited about that? It's a statue of a dude who's on screen for 6 seconds, and he probably has like 8 novels written about him.
Oh boy,
And
that would be awesome.
I'm gonna write a whole series of fan fictions about Pork Mike, who's walking down the hallway carrying a chest of probably beer. Oh, that's hilarious! I never noticed that before. That Han Solo actually grabs C-3PO by the mouth to try to get him to stop talking.
Yeah. Han Solo is such a practical kind of guy. Like when he does things like that, they crack me up. Like going back to the stuff he would say in the first movie about like not believing in the Force and stuff. Like I don't know, he's very upfront with people, and I like that
Well,
about him.
Harrison Ford always just seems so into this role.
Which
I'm
is
sure
funny
stuff.
because he wasn't at all.
Oh, was he not?
No.
Well, man, well, he must just be okay. Again, I don't know things, so that's why you're here. But I would, yeah, I would assume that things like that are not always directing things. Like
Yeah.
it might be somebody behind the camera saying, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if he did this?" But I wonder if he's just a good enough actor that he's in the role and he thinks, "Oh, here's a thing he would do right now, and let's add some extra visual, depth to it by doing some fun things with my hands."
Yeah, Harrison Ford often says that reading a George Lucas script is I'm paraphrasing here, but it's kind of like gobbledygook, and he doesn't really feel like he has a lot to work with because it's a lot of, Star Wars does a lot of its world building through the dialogue where people just say random words like parsec and things like that. They don't necessarily explain what it is, and that gives the whole universe like a used kind of feel that people always talk about with Star Wars. And Harrison Ford's not too keen on that from what he said over the years. And he wanted Han Solo to be killed off in Return of the Jedi. That's something that he said many, many times too.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, it would have made a lot of sense to do that in a lot of ways, and I guess we can talk about that more when we get there. But considering, I don't know, I mean, considering all the stuff he goes through, I guess it would have made that it would have made that a much more depressing film.
Yes, it would have.
Especially because, like, he finally gets the girl at the end and stuff. So I mean, we've kind of been waiting for that for 3 movies.
Right.
So there's that. But
It's kind of got that like Harry Potter thing of like, the fans after like the last book, people expected at least one of the like three main characters to die just by virtue of they're in such dangerous situations. How could they all possibly survive that?
there's that. Yeah, it's just the law of averages.
Yeah, I
You're just
suppose
like,
so. Yeah,
I want somebody to get killed off just based on the line. Somebody would not make it. It seems like they win because everybody wins because the writer says they do.
exactly.
We're not allowing reality to happen, and we're too afraid of we love these characters too much to do horrible things to them.
Yeah, and I think this movie is so successful in a way that Return of the Jedi isn't. And I like that movie a lot, but I think it's the weakest of the three of them in a lot of ways. This movie is not afraid to do things to its characters that are terrible. It doesn't go as far to kill them off, but you feel like no one's safe because of the things that happen to the characters in this movie, especially Luke Skywalker. Like the guy is supposed to be the hero of the story.
Well, yeah, and I mean, obviously, in order for us to really care about these characters and what they're going through, and especially Luke Skywalker in having to fight the whole dark side business and trying to become a Jedi, you have to put him up against really difficult obstacles.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is more difficult than my dad is the dark side?
Yeah, exactly.
As always with Star Wars, these sets are amazing.
Oh, they are. It just makes me so sad, like watching how good these special effects still hold up to this day. that the prequels look more dated than these movies do.
I just really hope that the next one is a really good story to match what it looks like is finally doing the right thing with the effects. I mean, we haven't seen it yet. I don't know, but they're doing so much of it practical, and they're
Hmm.
building so much of it, and just that we've already gotten to see the Millennium Falcon, or not the Millennium Falcon, but like well, I guess pieces of it, but
Yeah.
like the getting to see an X-wing already, and it's just like they're building stuff again. It's not all on a green screen. We're not gonna have all this over-the-shoulder stuff constantly, and
Yeah.
that's really exciting. It's at least probably gonna feel more like Star Wars than those movies did.
Yes.
I don't want to just talk about that this whole time because that's going to date our podcast a lot. But
Right. Yeah, that's true. See, one of the things that I hope that the new movies do, and like the expanded universe lately has been trying to do more of this, especially with the Brian Wood series and Mark Waid getting Princess Leia a miniseries from Marvel. I hope more is done with her character, um, because she has such an interesting backstory. Like she's like a politician that lost her entire planet and homeworld. Like what? I don't know. Like we see her like kind of falling in love with Han Solo because he's a main character in the story, and like I like the relationship, but I feel like her character could be fleshed out much more than it is in these movies. You know?
oh, most certainly. And I think a lot of the reason that it isn't. I mean, I don't want to jump to well, she's the token girl in the movie. I don't know that Han Solo is any more or less fleshed out than she is. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly.
right?
That's
Like the thing
true.
is, it's Luke Skywalker's story. It's an ensemble cast, but it's not. It's an ensemble cast in that we like all these characters, and of course, I think that over time, they've all become major kind of archetypes and iconic figures to people. But then again, so is Boba Fett, and what does he get to do in these movies?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
so
Boba
so
Fett's
I,
one of my favorite things.
Oh no, I know, and I'm
Yeah,
not dogging that. I'm just saying that
yeah.
he's one of your favorite things because of things they did
Yes,
with him in other
exactly,
places.
exactly.
You can't tell me that you're only a big Boba Fett fan because of the 6 seconds he's in these
Oh,
movies.
I
So,
cannot disagree with that at all.
so all
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying is it's an ensemble cast kind of, but it's sort of like most really good like TOS or TNG episodes where it's an ensemble cast, but it's Kirk's story first. It's Picard's story first. It's Luke Skywalker's story first.
Right, and I think the thing you were talking about with Han Solo's character not being as fleshed out works a little bit better with him because that's kind of the point of him, right? He's a roguish, mysterious kind of character. You don't know a lot about his past. You get to know his personality, but you don't really know what informs his whole sort of like cynical worldview of like the Force not existing and stuff like that. Other than like he was a smuggler that saw like the worst of
Yeah.
what this Imperial society's produced. So.
And if you knew too much about him, it might taint some of that. It's sort of like Gambit in the X-Men.
Yeah, very true, very true. That's a very good thing to go to. I think that's a very apt comparison. But with Princess Leia, like I think it's good that she ends up with Han Solo because she's a little bit stuffy because of that background she had as a politician. She kind of has to be, right? She's a leader. She
Yeah.
can't really like emote the way that Luke and Han do. So it's probably good that she ended up with him because I think Han brings a little bit of emotion out of her. Obviously, not just with the love thing, but she's a little bit more humorous. Like we'll see her be a little bit you know trying to give Han Solo his comeuppance later when she kisses Luke, which gets very awkward when you get to Return of the Jedi. But
Yeah. It's awesome.
yeah, but I don't know. Like I like Leia a lot when she's on screen with Han, not necessarily by herself, just by virtue of I don't know a whole lot about her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's cool that that even when, especially in this movie, because this is always talked about, of course, as the darkest of them, and it
Yeah.
should be, because of what it's about, but also because it's in the middle of a trilogy and it's your second act and all that stuff. When you look at those like we had just now with Han Solo finally rescuing Luke and stuff, and we get these like really kind of darker and rougher kinds of moments. There's always still some humor to them too.
Yes.
Like we never lose the sensibility of sci-fi serials, and like sci-fi serials rarely got to those kinds of that far to those kinds of places.
Yeah.
Which is this kind of sets itself apart by being able to be more than that, but also it still remembers what it is. It knows what vein it's in, and there's always some levity. There's always something to offset it so that you're still having a good time, even when you're going, oh God, my favorite character is in such awful turmoil right now, or just here's a like really creepy atmospheric kind of moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we just saw Han Solo cut the carcass of an animal up so we could keep someone's body temperature from going down into hypothermic levels, and he was complaining about how it smelled, and it was funny.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, that's exactly what I was talking
Yeah.
about. What is the name of this more heavyset guy? We're past it now, but what is the name of the more heavyset guy that's flying one of the ships there with a big giant smile on his face?
I'm not sure if I,
You know who I'm talking about?
recall that guy's name off the top
I
of my
think
head.
he gets a lot of he gets a little bit more dialogue than some of the others, and I think he gets blown up. But like, I think doesn't he? Isn't he one of the ones that gets blown up?
I can't.
I guess we'll see in a
Yeah,
second. But if I were going to recast that guy, I would pick Jon Favreau.
that would be awesome.
Wait till we see him again. He looks like Jon Favreau.
And Chewbacca is so awesome too. Like the fact that they're able to make a character as emotionally like resonant, like you can tell exactly what sort of emotions he's feeling, like you do with a pet dog. Like you sort of project emotions onto him, but there's some sort of semblance there. You know what I mean? Like we know that you know dogs are able to feel emotions, but we definitely do project them more onto what they're trying to convey than's actually there. And I don't know, like the acting and the costuming is so good.
Chewbacca is scruffy looking.
Yeah,
That's who's scruffy looking.
and
Han Solo.
the reason I make the dog comparison too is because he's based on George Lucas's dog, so that always makes me think of.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny that you say that you know you're projecting emotion onto him because I think part of that too is just because we can't understand what he's saying and he seems sort of like an animal because of course he's obviously not like a really intellectual being, but of course his people have their own society.
Yes, they do.
They are, you know, they're certainly not just straight up animals. They've got kind of a Planet of the Apes looking thing going on, but I
They
mean
do.
like like so they're primitive, but they're certainly sentient, right?
Yes,
Like
exactly.
they certainly have um you
They
know,
have like a code of ethics and law. Like that's the
yeah,
reason why.
they have a society,
Yeah,
sure.
that's the reason
They're
why.
self-aware.
Yeah, that's the reason why Chewbacca follows Han around is because Wookiees have this thing called a life debt, where if you save a Wookiee's life, they are bound to be like your right hand man for the entirety of the rest of their lives.
Is that mentioned in one of the films?
I think they might mention it in passing.
Oh, okay, okay. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Cool. Thanks for telling me that. I didn't
yeah, no
know.
problem.
I used to have an action figure of one of these probes.
Did you?
Yep.
That's awesome.
I don't. That's just a. I'm telling you everything I know about Star Wars.
And of course the reason why Chewbacca wants to fight against the Empire is because they enslave the Wookiees and use them for forced labor and things. So he has a vested interest in all of this going well for the rebellion. Which is
Yeah.
interesting. He has even more he has a better reason than Han does, and Han wants to leave and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. There, you know, that's a really good point. Yeah, and so there's still a little bit of, I mean, I guess he's got some loyalty. He's certainly got loyalty. I almost used the word duplicity. It's not that, but then there is a little bit of he has to push against his own selfishness because he's just used to acting like that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a part of him that would rather be alone,
Right.
because he's a rogue, and if he could just do everything on his own, it would be a lot easier because he wouldn't have to, you know, think about anybody else's feelings.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to be a smuggler and steal things if that's, you know, if you don't have anybody else to worry about.
Right, exactly.
If your conscience doesn't have to go any farther than just what you do to yourself,
Right.
or yeah, then you know. So anyway, ba, 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 ba.
And this theme is one of the greatest things that John Williams has ever done.
Ever done.
Makes its debut in this movie, and it's you feel like the
God.
first movie's missing something after you watch this without
Oh, I know. I think so. I'm surprised the special editions didn't go back and add
it.
it.
Right.
But yeah, I think that the introduction to Darth Vader in this movie is better than the one in the first one.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Because you see the back of his helmet before you even see his face. That's really cool. Because it's just, you know, it's a little scarier. And you're building up that anticipation. I mean, like, it's a little while before we finally really get to see his face, and I think part of the reason they're doing that is probably, I mean, surely by the time they made this, they knew how huge this all was,
Mm-hmm.
and so there maybe was a little bit of thinking when they were doing the scene of, let's make people wait for a second because they're here to see Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That's what they're here for now, So once his head pops up, surely there's got to be resounding applause from the audience, right? Like, yeah,
exactly.
There he is.
I mean, they showed, the back of his helmet, then a far shot of him walking, then his boots and his cape, and then finally.
So ominous.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we introduced him that way? I mean, heck, they kind of did Shredder like that in the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie. Like, yeah. That's how you introduce a villain, man. I'm not saying anything against the one in Star Wars, but I think that they didn't know what they had with that character in that costume.
I don't think so either. I mean, I think the main villainy focus in the first movie. I mean, obviously Darth Vader's a big thing because he fights Obi-Wan and stuff, and they have a past. But Peter Cushing's Grand Moff Tarkin was a big deal in the movie. They focused a lot on him, and like he was the main person like orchestrating blowing up Leia's home planet Alderaan and stuff like that. So now that Darth Vader is the full villainy focus here.
Well, and I felt like there was a lot of just symbolic strong arm of the Empire stuff going on. We always talk about that with Star Wars, and so I feel like Vader is the representation of that, in like the mysteriousness of it, and the vastness of it, and like the distance of it, and then Tarkin is more of like a human scary face of it. But honestly, I think more of the big representation of the Empire in that movie is the Death Star itself.
Yeah,
I mean, what does Skywalker really go up against?
That's true.
At the end, it's the Death Star. I feel like that's representative of the whole thing. Like it's their big master super weapon. What they I guess my point is they're bullies. The reason they're able to oppress everybody else is because of what they have, is because of their tech.
Right, and
just their massiveness.
Mm-hmm. And I think
also I love the giant egg thing Darth Vader is in. It's one of my favorite images in anything.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. And one of the points you were making about the Death Star earlier, I think, is really interesting. You're talking about like the human face of the Empire and stuff. Like, I think it's interesting that I don't know if they like Lucas. He had some plan of what he wanted to do, obviously, because we've read the original script in that comic book that came out now, and we know sort of what it was like. But like, Darth Vader doesn't get killed by the Death Star, like, and Tarkin does, almost to say like Tarkin is the irredeemable one and Vader isn't. There's still some good left in him, which we see at the end of Return of the Jedi. If you want to run with that sort of thematic thread you were talking about, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And of course, one of these is just more dispensable in general.
That's true. I mean, but
that's not why he dies.
Right. They sort of acted like Vader was a subordinate of Tarkin in that movie too, which was interesting.
Oh, I guess you're right about that. I haven't given that whole thing as much thought as you. Honestly, Tarkin's not even a character I even really knew what his name was until you and I did our commentary on it. And I was like, oh, I guess that is kind of a thing. And then, did I tell you about this? I recently did a film shoot for my documentary, The Midwest in Panels, and one of the store owners in that, who runs limited edition in a place in Iowa, Cedar Falls. His son's name is Tarkin.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, he's such a huge Star Wars fan. He named his son Tarkin.
Is Tarkin his favorite character?
I guess he really likes Tarkin, and he dresses up in a Darth Vader suit a lot for shows and things.
Oh, cool.
And then his son, when he got old enough to figure things out, when he was like 4 or 5, came up to his dad and he said, first of all, you named me after a bad guy, and second of all, why didn't you name me Grand Moff?
He just has an Imperial like title as his first name.
Just imagine that being your name.
I love the Rebel pilot costumes. They're so cool. I know, like, we probably talked about it in the commentary for the first movie, but Luke, like, does a lot of action scenes with the lightsaber and stuff in this one. When the snowspeeder crashes and stuff. And I don't know, I just think it looks really cool in it. And I've always liked that look, because, like, they always make action figures of, like, pilot Luke with a blue lightsaber. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite looks for the character.
I gotta tell you, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of special edition stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed too much yet either.
I was actually kind of wondering if I was watching the right version of it, but I know that we matched our
Mhm.
links,
Yeah,
our timestamp links. So
it's
R2D2 has such a tough life. There's always snow dropping on his head.
I know, right? Him and C3PO. C3PO goes through some rough stuff once we get to Cloud City here too.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get all of his pieces ripped apart and stuff. And that's why when they did that kind of stuff to him in the prequels, I was like, this isn't cool. We're gonna see him this happen already later, like. And then it was like taken to like they dialed that up to 11, and I was just like, oh man, once you've seen that, the stuff in this is like nothing. But then they play it for comedy and in a different sort of way, and
Yeah,
this is kind of comedic, but it's juxtaposed with really ominous stuff going on.
right, exactly. I mean, it never really occurred to me like this scene when I was a kid, watching the rebels fight the walkers here, just how many people are dying in this battle.
I
Um,
didn't. Yeah, that's a good point.
like obviously because of Star Wars and there's like lasers and stuff, you don't really see anyone like like a corpse like maimed or anything. But you don't if you're not thinking about it, you don't really see the casualties, I suppose. But like we just saw like a bunker of rebel troops get bombarded, and you got to assume all of them died, plus like some of the rebel pilots here. We Luke's gunman actually gets killed when the snowspeeder crashes. So. But at the same time, I'm having a lot of fun watching them fight these things, to the point you had made before.
This is, of course, in my head, kind of the one of, if not the most kind of iconic Star Wars setting.
Oh yeah, Hoth
When I
is.
think of Star Wars, I think of this, and I think of walkers, and I mean, of course, Tie fighters and things like that too. But I guess some of it is just like what it made an impression of me most when I was a kid,
Yeah, I think it's cool.
because these are so unusual, so
Right.
different from any other vehicle you've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's cool that like after all the space battles in the first movie, we got like a taste of what sort of artillery the Empire uses on ground assaults. Like that's really
And
cool.
stuff. Yeah, there's some variety to it, and it helps remind you that this battle, this war is happening everywhere.
Yeah,
It's not just
exactly.
in space; it's on these planets.
Yeah, it's sort of like
Ah, Wedge Antilles. I know that guy's name.
yes, he becomes a huge character in the expanded universe. There's lots of novels written about that guy. Wedge is a cool guy.
Wedge Antilles. Does he not get killed in this?
No, he
He makes an
survives and
appearance.
has a big role to play in the expanded universe later once they form the New Republic and stuff.
I think it's really cool, the mix of kind of more primitive technology with really kind of more futuristic stuff. That they don't have tractor beams; they have to throw out these tow cables.
Yeah, I love how ragtag the rebels are, and we talked about that probably in the commentary for the first one. But like, um, it's very easy to root for these guys because they use their ingenuity to win battles. Like they're clearly losing here, but they got a small victory blowing up at least one of the walkers, I guess.
Yeah, they're guerrilla fighters. It reminds you of other wars in history where people won because they just wanted it more, and so
Yeah.
it made them, it made them come up with these, uh, impressive ways of winning a battle that require ingenuity and resourcefulness.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're Americans. That's gonna resonate with us, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That'd be the big one, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Anthony Daniels gives a great performance in the C-3PO costume. I feel like he's one of the performances people don't really talk about from these movies.
Kind of unsung, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I've always thought that acting in that kind of suit of metal had to have been extremely difficult.
Well, I don't think we think of it as a performance. I think we think of it as a voiceover performance,
Yeah,
and we
true.
forget that he's in there.
Yeah, that is true. In the same way we kind of think of James Earl Jones as like the voice of Darth Vader, and there's no one else like in the suit actually, giving Vader the physical presence that he has.
Yeah, and even though like that guy doesn't have to act with his face, and he mostly just has to stand really rigid and stoic and have presence, just standing straight up and that kind of stuff. I still feel like he deserves the credit he gets now.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, he goes to a lot of conventions and stuff now.
Yeah, most
and I
definitely.
and I and I and I think he deserves that, certainly.
You can actually go and find on the internet, and I think I have a DVD that came with my version of the special editions, where you can
He's
hear
saying the
him
lines.
saying the lines, which is really interesting. Because he's like, I forget what country he's from, but he has some sort of I don't want to say Germanic, I don't know. It's some sort of like Eastern European accent, and that would have been so strange for Darth Vader to have, looking back.
I mean, how good of a choice is this here, from a filmmaking standpoint, and trying to make this exciting, and again trying to put Luke in these precarious situations where he's learning everything he needs to learn to become a Jedi, but he's always at risk. Where like we drop him on the ground and he has to get out of his speeder, and
Yeah,
like they easily could have had him just win this battle. I guess what I'm saying is we get so used to, especially now, and I feel like I'm taking pot shots, I guess, but I feel like the prequels have a lot of this where you have these big fight scenes where at the end of the fight it really just matters who wins it,
right.
and there's nothing else really going on inside of it emotionally or anything, but also just that like you actually get to see these characters go up against a force, and it's not easy. They win, but it isn't just okay, fight, 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 fight. Then who wins?
Right.
It's you actually, as you're going along, you feel like you're actually. This sounds dumb, but you're actually seeing it happen.
Yeah, I mean, the example that I would go to your point is like how Anakin wins the battle with the droids in Episode One almost by accident because he has his ship on autopilot and goes out into space, like, you know?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be endearing just because he's proactive and he does and he goes out there and flies the ship around. But like he only wins because he's the main
Yeah,
character,
exactly.
and it's supposed to be kind of funny and tongue in cheek, and
Hmm.
you know,
You know,
we don't need story stuff. It's science fantasy.
right. And we see Luke here, take down that walker because he's smart and has skills that other people don't have. If this was the Empire versus an army of Luke Skywalkers, they might have had a better chance, but but
That's great.
but they don't, unfortunately.
I think it's really cool that we've got, and this is another one of those things where the prequels kind of hurt this a little bit, but like it's neat that some of these general guys have helmets that look like Vader's. Like that came from somewhere.
That is very cool, and of course, that's based on the Nazi battle helmet design. Lucas talks about that when he talks about like how he designed the Imperial garb and stuff. He took a lot of inspiration from the uniforms that the Nazis had, and
That makes a lot of sense, and it looks a lot more like it outside of Vader's helmet when just a regular guy's wearing
yes,
it.
exactly. And when the snowtroopers have one of my favorite looks too for stormtroopers, I love the way their costumes look.
We spend an amazing amount of time on this planet.
Yes, we do. Uh,
I mean, we've been here for 36 minutes already.
yeah, you kind of see the rebellion almost collapse in on itself. If the Empire had captured Leia and the rest of the leadership, they would have been completely done. And they literally escape by the skin of their teeth. The snowtroopers storm this hangar as they're leaving, and Vader walks into it.
Yeah, which just shows you what they're up against.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that they're still such a really tiny force, and that helps us uh, understand how important it is for Luke to realize his potential,
Yeah, exactly. And it also gives.
and also helps to create the. I'm sorry,
Oh,
helps
it's
to
okay.
helps to. It also helps to create his dilemma later.
Oh yes, most definitely. And it kind of gives credence to like why the Empire wanted to eliminate the Jedi in the first place. Like if you had like in the prequels, we see like the Jedi running around and stuff, and they're extreme like more powerful even than they are in this. But like even Jedi that are like original trilogy powerful, like they could have rebelled and won against a force like this, not easily, but more successfully, I suppose.
With the kind of force powers that the prequel guys had, they should have been able to win it in about 6.5
Yeah,
seconds
exactly.
if they actually used it right. Because it's sort of like, well, we just got all this telekinesis that we only use in token moments, instead of just putting our lightsabers away and picking people up in the air and throwing them into space.
Yeah.
Because there's really nothing stopping us from doing that. But yeah, I mean, that's why it's. I mean, I'm not sure how easy it would have been, even with better scripts, to make a prequel trilogy with a whole bunch of Jedi that wouldn't have felt like their job was too easy.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I always wondered about that. Because one of the things that really helps with this is that you've got this kind of. Uh, you got this kind of religious aspect to this where a lot of people don't believe in the Force, so even if they had the capacity to use it, they would never think to even give it a go and
Right.
learn what they would need to learn. And it's not an easy thing to master. And I feel like with the prequels, you kind of get. It seems like it's not that hard to use. And it might just be because you have all these Jedi Masters and they've all figured it out, but I never get the sense from not really knowing them that well and stuff that, like, it was ever all that hard. You know what I mean?
Right, and of course, this is what everyone always harps on, but they fundamentally change the nature of what it is, right? It's not a
Yeah, that's
matter of how good you are at connecting to the spirituality of the Force. It's what you're born with, and you make do with what you have, I suppose.
yeah.
And that's
And
that's
the whole idea was supposed to be, I think, with Anakin Skywalker, that he had all this potential and he realized it and then used it in the wrong direction. Like you do
right.
have you do have throughout history just people with remarkable abilities and remarkable potential that seems like they have it almost from birth, but they have to realize it. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah, definitely. And people that
Julius Caesar wasn't just automatically a good leader. Like
no, he wasn't. And like the same thing with, all of those imperial leaders that conquered and eventually were like defeated because of arrogance or things like that. Like Napoleon's the same sort of story.
well, we can talk about all that when we actually tackle the
Yeah,
prequels, I
yeah,
suppose. It's hard not to think about them when you're watching this, though, just because when you're watching this and you've seen those, at least for me, I know some people like them, that's cool, but for me, I just feel like a lot of this gets undercut by those.
yeah. And I think one of the things I just thought of this when you were talking about people not believing in the Force. I think it's sort of a missed opportunity to not have Leia have some sort of opinion on that other than accepting it carte blanche, like
That's a great point.
she's like Han Solo has a reason to not believe in the Force, but Leia's like she was part of the Imperial Senate. Like the Empire officially doesn't acknowledge the Force as a thing. Like that's why people don't believe in it because the Empire says it doesn't exist. But they secretly have two Sith running the whole show, right? So what would
And it's
her
only one generation removed,
Yeah, exactly. So
right?
what would her whole stance on it be considering her role in all of this? I don't know.
It's hard to believe that she wouldn't have ever talked to someone or lots of people potentially that had directly had contact with people that had used it. Like she had to have heard accounts.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's a great point. By the way, this is one of my favorite points in John Williams' score for this film.
Oh, I agree. It's hard not to just love every piece of music that he does for this movie specifically. Um,
Yeah.
but man, this is definitely one of my favorite ones too.
If as far as his film scores, I think Empire Strikes Back is the magnum opus, even over Superman. I mean, I
Yeah,
really do.
I mean Superman's really close, but I would have to agree. I like this one a little bit more.
It's a
It
masterwork.
is, it is. And even I know people say this all the time, but like I even love the prequel scores, and I just think John
Oh yeah,
Williams
me
and
too.
this click like nothing else.
Yeah.
I would have,
It's like beans and cornbread.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm so glad that they brought Williams back to do the new movies.
Such a big deal. I didn't think it would happen. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I expected
Uh,
Abrams to bring in one of the people he had worked with before, but I don't think you can do Star Wars without John Williams. The music is such a big part of what creates the identity of these movies. And this is such a I don't know, interesting space kind of idea that I had never seen done before in anything before I'd watched this movie. And obviously, I watched this movie when I was really young because Star Wars, when you were my age in the '90s, everyone saw it. But I don't know that I've seen a ton of like similar things done where they like fly into an asteroid and ends up being like a sentient being they fly into. It's like the Pinocchio story or something like that, but in space where they go into
Yeah,
a whale.
where you went into a whale, but you thought it was a cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Where the idea, it's a totally different, it's a different thing. I shouldn't say totally, or I can't use the word almost. But it's sort of the same thing as like the Men in Black idea of the universe is just bigger than you thought it was.
Mm.
So like the idea is like we're used to space, we're in space, but it still is so vast and wondrous, and we're gonna be surprised.
Hmm.
Like, and I love that sense of wonder that this has, especially because it's a franchise about war, but it still has a little bit of that sense of wonder and awe about the vastness and unknown and mystery of space.
Right.
And you get that with that. It is a thing I've seen in a couple of other things. There's a I'm not saying this as well, but there's a Voyager episode where Voyager goes into what it thinks is a wormhole, and it turns out to be a sentient being pretending to be a wormhole.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that's pretty cool. So I mean, there's science fiction that does it. Of course, that's post this, but I
Right.
don't know if they were thinking of this. It's not the same thing at all.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, yeah. And to your point, you were talking about the environment of Hoth and how um, sort of kind of creepy the aesthetic was, and how hostile the environment was. That's how pretty much all the worlds in this movie are. It really sets
yeah,
the tone for what you're watching. Like Dagobah is a creepy place. And
yeah,
in the expanded universe, I think it's cool. This isn't said in the movie, but they say that the reason Yoda hides here is because it's a world that was previously occupied by dark side users, and it corrupted the planet.
oh,
So the
cool.
Emperor and Vader can't sense him because it's negated by all the dark side energy on the planet, and he risked himself being corrupted, but he's so strong-willed that he wasn't.
What a cool
Yeah,
idea.
I think that's awesome.
Oh, that's brilliant because that perfectly encapsulates what Yoda is,
Exactly.
and just how centered he is, and that he's the greatest of the Force users. Like,
I really wish that was in
yeah,
this movie, but
me too.
that's one of my favorite ideas from the expanded universe novels and stuff that I've read.
Yeah, but it's and I mean, like, whether it's there or not, it doesn't hurt Yoda, but like it's also a thing that I could totally see why it wouldn't come up.
Right, exactly.
Why would he tell Luke any of that? He's very dodgy. Like,
Yes.
even after he reveals who he is, it's not like he's telling Luke everything.
Right.
He could have told him about Leia, but he didn't.
Right. Yeah.
With the whole famous there is another thing, he doesn't tell him about that.
Right, and he's even more evasive than Obi-Wan is, and Obi-Wan's pretty evasive, and like Obi-Wan speaks in half-truths, Yoda just speaks in like,
Riddles.
yeah, riddles and abstractions that don't really make a whole lot of sense until
And flat
later
out
on.
lies and
Yeah,
stuff, right?
exactly.
Like,
The way we're introduced to him is so interesting to me. I've always thought like it totally makes sense for who his character is and defines who he is, like you said, once he reveals who he is. But it's such a goofy introduction to such a stoic character, right?
but it's a great idea
It
because
is.
because it goes against your expectations so much.
Yeah.
Because like as soon as you see him, you're with Luke. I mean, the whole idea with following Luke in this is that everything he thinks and feels is what you would expect a lot of people in his situation to think and feel, and he's our eyes into this. So when he sees Yoda, he sees this, impish little Muppet,
Yeah.
and that's what we see, and so we think he's a silly, crazy thing. And at first, we're probably I'm supposed to be going, "Oh God, really? We got freaking Muppets in this world? What? This is such a joke, What are we doing?" And then, by the way, the helmet coming down is great
Oh
because you
yeah.
can't help but wonder what his face looks like, and it's great that that's finally paid off in the third one.
Mhm.
But like, anyway, but like, I love the egg. Anyway, I want one of those in my house, Dan. I'm gonna build that in my house, and then I'm gonna watch TV in it, and then people are gonna come in, and I'm gonna spin around, and I'm gonna be like, "Why are you intruding upon me?" But here, leave me alone. Yes, Lord. But anyway, but like you first see Yoda, and you're like, "Oh man, why are we being so silly and making a joke about this and stuff?" And then he's using his minute kind of size, his little size to his advantage,
Yeah, exactly. And he's always,
defying expectations.
yeah. And you said the thing about riddles, like that whole introduction and his actions are kind of a riddle in itself and a test to Luke,
Yeah,
which,
exactly.
you know, perfectly defines what his role and his character is in this movie, which is so cool. the script is so tight for this movie. Like I feel like there's nothing extraneous or
No, there's nothing you
unused, you
don't
know?
need. Yeah, yeah, it's really well paced.
Yeah, I mean, we got those big action scenes, and I like that we're kind of slowing down now and getting these character moments for the three main characters of the movie. Um, and to your point, like about this being Luke's story, it makes a whole lot of sense to isolate him for the other two to have this big like kind of character progression by himself and come back later on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that happens to him a lot in these, right?
It
Where he
does.
gets where he's either isolated or he's with one other person. And well, I guess when he's isolated, he usually is with at least one other person. But I guess I'm saying like in the first one, he kind of has that for a minute with Obi-Wan when he's when they go and find Darth Vader.
Yeah, and like from the opening scene of the first movie, he feels isolated, like he doesn't belong on that planet, and you know the famous kind of shot of him looking out on the two red suns in the desert, kind of wishing and hoping that he could someday leave there and you know meet different kind of people, see different kind of things. Um, that's one of the things I always like, I don't know, enjoyed about Luke's character is the fact that he's they don't really like come out and like make it a huge thing for him, I suppose, but he's still got that farm boy kind of exploration, curiosity kind of thing to his
Yeah,
character. And I don't know, that's probably one of the reasons why
which
I
is
gravitated to him. So
yeah, it's easy to relate to because you want that in a space movie. Like I said, I mean, like it gets way too pessimistic if the whole thing is just okay. The setting is space, but it's just all war and depressing, and it's it's never gonna
get better.
it's never going to work out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't get that. There is a sense of optimism for this even when it gets at its heaviest. And this movie is all about that. I mean, it portrays this whole universe as super bleak because the Empire has painted it that way. It has created that. And as you said, and I guess this is it's again as you said, it's too bad that the expanded universe thing about what this planet is isn't in the movie because that would really help to go along with that, right?
Yeah,
That like
definitely.
the Empire, though nobody realizes it, exists because of the dark side, and look what the dark side does to things
Mm,
and to places, and you would have that. I'm not using that as actual analysis because it's not in the movie, but I'm
right.
just saying that if it was, there it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of there in that like we see a snippet of Vader's like the back of his head, and he's we know he's a dark side user, and look what it's done to him. He's a robot.
Yeah.
He's like almost a cyborg now. And then obviously when we see the Emperor too.
Can I? Oh my god! I just thought of something. Can I
Sure.
ask you a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Does that? I'm sorry. Does that whole dark side corrupted Dagobah thing? Does that explain what the Force vision is, or did Yoda do that because he has the power to do that?
Apparently in that cave, what happened is a very, very powerful Sith Lord died in the cave, and there's residual dark side energy that creates visions to whoever goes in it. And
Is that mentioned also in this movie?
no, it's not. It's an expanded universe thing too.
Okay,
And
but those two things go together, right?
yes,
Like
they
it makes
do.
sense that a Sith Lord would die in a place that was corrupted by the dark side.
Yeah, he like the people living on the planet because there was so much dark side energy, you know, expelled by them. Like them habitating that place corrupted it, and their misuse of power corrupted it.
Would you agree with the criticism that there should have been some sort of an explanation for that inside the film?
Um,
Or can we just chalk it up within the context of the movie to Yoda has superpowers and we don't understand them and they're kind of vague, and so it's kind of okay that we don't know them because he's mysterious about it and you don't know what the Force can do, and maybe that's a thing it can do.
I think there's enough sort of explanation in that you were talking before how we're seeing all of this from Luke's perspective. And Yoda knows things Luke doesn't, and the audience doesn't know all the things that Yoda knows. So when he goes
Right.
into the cave, it's sort of like us, like you said, experiencing the things that Luke didn't know was possible at the Force, or even why it operates in that way. You know what I mean? I kind of
Yeah.
like that it's mysterious.
I like that it's mysterious too. It's just you don't want to just chalk it up to he's getting like he's getting like really emotional and stuff, and so he's having a vision.
Hmm.
Like it needs to there. It's got to be something more than just a fictional character hallucinating because we can write scenes where that happens, even though in
Yeah.
real life that doesn't really happen that way.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just come from a perspective of knowing too much about this that it doesn't bother me.
Oh no, that's cool. I'm not saying it bothers me. I'm saying that people who watched it
Yeah,
had to have asked that
exactly. That's what I'm
when it
saying.
came
Like
out.
some,
People had to have been like, "What the heck was that that just happened?" It seems kind of, I don't know. It seems a little drug induced. Like people had to have been like, "That's trippy. What was that? What happened there?"
yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to mention too. Like if I was someone that had never seen this movie or and never read an expanded universe novel before, I might be a little weirded out by that, especially since um, you see like Luke's head pop out of the Vader helmet, and you obviously you understand what thematically is going on there. I think even if you're a
Yeah.
first time viewer, but it's just kind of
Well,
strange.
especially the second time you see it,
Yeah.
because I think that's layered. I've always read that as it's both. He's worried he'll become part of the dark side, but also there might be a little bit of something in him that has already kind of subconsciously figured out that Darth Vader is his father.
Yes. Um,
I think both of those things is
Either
happening.
subconsciously himself or it's kind of like
Residual from the Force,
yes,
like
yes, that
yeah,
too. That's what I was going to mention. See, and I think there's so much that I would love to know about Leia's backstory. And you can kind of assume it, like, because she was a politician, she was raised in, like, royalty and that kind of elite culture, that she would be immediately resistant to falling in love with a man like Han Solo. I mean, he's a lawbreaker. That's what he does for a living, right? Like, the thing that she has sworn to uphold and protect and make laws and things. Like, he
yeah,
flies in the
he's
face of
against
all that.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, like there's so much more that could have been done with that I think could have been really interesting. I'm not saying I don't know. I feel like I'm criticizing Leia to the point where it sounds like I don't like her character at all. I just think that she's potentially much more interesting than she is, and she's
Do you think it's played up a little bit like it's the typical she like girls like the bad boy no matter who they are?
a sort of I don't know. Like I don't think she's that superficial. Maybe
I
I'm.
think she's just. I think maybe the idea is supposed to be she spent a bunch of time with him and we didn't get to see any of that.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I don't know that she's as attracted to him in the first movie as she is in this. I think there's been a progression, and I think we haven't seen all of it.
Right. And here is the first special edition thing that I notice. This is a new projection of the Emperor in his
Oh yeah,
Revenge of the Sith costume. They didn't even cast. I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but this,
did they not?
yeah, it was a completely different actor, completely different voice. And I kind of like that they got the original Emperor to do the voice. He looks different than he looks in Return of the Jedi, though. That's the only discrepancy I have about it. He looks more like the Revenge of the Sith costume, obviously, because they retroactively put it in.
Oh, I wish they hadn't done that. But I will say that most everything else has felt a little bit faithful to me. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would make comments and be like, "Nah, you missed this thing and this thing." But I'm just saying that, like, I guess we've been talking and I haven't been looking that closely for things.
Right.
But I mean, like, nothing's just jumped out at me. Like, oh, holy crap! Why did they have to ruin everything by that? Like this, like I thought there was a scene on Hoth where there was like a whole bunch of random new CG things taking up everything on the screen, and I didn't see that this time.
Yeah, it wasn't like Mos Eisley in the first movie where they put in a
So
yeah.
much random crap going on where it looks like an interstate
Yeah,
highway.
exactly. They didn't CG Yoda's house either here, which is good.
Oh, that is good. Oh man, I want my house to look like Darth Vader's rooms
I
because
know.
they're awesome.
The
I'm not even evil, but I love that stuff. It's
yeah,
awesome.
we talked a lot, I think, in our commentary for the first movie about the architecture and just how inherently evil like the set design looked. Like the
Yeah.
Empire, like even the chairs had like devil horns on them subtly and things like that. That you wouldn't necessarily notice at first glance, but like you go back and examine that kind of thing, and you're like, oh, that's intentional. Uh, so I don't know, like the whole aesthetic of like the Star Destroyer and like the Imperial style of stuff like that is interesting to me because it looks so sterile and disconnected from humanity, I suppose, right?
I bet Luke Skywalker took one, or Luke Skywalker. I bet Mark Hamill took one look at this set of Yoda's house and was like, "Oh man, you mean I actually have to act inside of one of those miniature sets?" God,
And this is Mark Hamill, I believe, pre-car accident that messed up his face, and he had to get plastic surgery to reconstruct it for Return of the
yeah,
Jedi,
wow.
which
Did
is
he get the whole? Did he get the whole shoot done?
I think so. I don't recall. I don't remember off the top of my head. Um, but I think it was mostly for Return of the Jedi, where you can notice his face looks a little bit different and he has scars and stuff. Um, but I think the plastic surgery he had done came out pretty good. I mean, considering.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell,
Yes, you can.
but yeah, it's
But he still looks like
man,
Mark Hamill. He's not like some celebrities where they have so much plastic surgery they're unrecognizable.
yeah, yeah, it's not like Michael Jackson or something.
Right. And I mean, Michael Jackson had much more plastic surgery than Mark Hamill.
Yeah, that's a different
Yeah,
situation
exactly.
entirely. Yeah, it didn't turn Mark Hamill into a different ethnicity.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. Um, but I've seen celebrities get like, a nose job or something that makes them look like so much different than they did before. Just one feature.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he wasn't trying to make himself look different.
That's
They were
true.
just
Yeah.
putting his face back
Right.
together. Yeah, man.
See, I like that there's a clear purpose for Yoda and Obi-Wan in this situation, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could have easily replaced Yoda with Obi-Wan as a mentor, but I like that they have different kind of like approaches to teaching people. Like
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yoda thinks like Luke is not cut out for this because he's already too reckless and uh, doesn't understand what it means to be stoic and leave emotion out of your decision making process. But
And
Obi
they didn't get him early enough before your brain has already decided what kind of person you are.
Yeah, exactly. And Obi-Wan's, kind of the voice of reason in that respect to Yoda and saying, like, if you remember, that's how I was when I started too. And, people are capable of changing and learning even at a certain point in their lives.
Yeah, like you've become kind of cynical in your own age, and you don't think you have, but you've let the Empire get to you.
Yeah, and, this is my expanded universe kind of thing projecting onto it, but, maybe the dark side energy did affect him more than Yoda perceives. Like, that's kind of interesting to think about too,
Oh,
right? Like, maybe
yeah,
that's made him a little
totally.
bit more cynical, but who knows?
Because he's got a couple moments in that where he looks really ominous,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
And I mean, part of it's to prove a point. You know, he's trying to make Luke realize just how serious all of this is. And again, I love all the talk about adventure and stuff because again, it's easy to get bogged down with all of the scary war stuff and that we've got this oppressive empire and everything. And Luke Skywalker used to be so cut off from all of that that it was easy for him to be naive and think of out there as the place where magical things happen. I
Right.
want to go explore it and take a look. And the world and the galaxy is a rougher place than that. It's not like you thought it was. And so there's it like everything. It's about not being extreme. It's about finding that middle ground where Luke Skywalker has to retain that sense of adventure to retain who he is, but he also is ultimately becoming a Jedi, going to have to find some self control and some discipline.
Yeah, and I feel like all of that could have been paralleled with Luke and Leia so much more than it is. Like
Yeah,
she
yeah.
grows up in an elitist kind of culture where everything's kind of prim and proper and everyone lives really great lives because they have the ins and connections socially with the Empire and the money to live that way. And Han Solo's the guy that flies in the face of both of what they perceive the galaxy to be, right? Um,
Oh, so you're saying they should have contrasted them?
yeah, and
Yeah,
like they're more similar as brother and sister than I think the is conveyed, really. You know what I mean?
or maybe even that the people making it
Yeah,
realize.
exactly.
Like maybe that's something that's not brought to the forefront because it's not something that was really considered enough, and it's just inherently there in the archetypes
Right, exactly.
and in the well, not just but in the characterization.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I wonder if Leia, when she was in that prim and proper society, if she ever wore a giant headdress and had a split lip with lipstick, and
uh,
ever got her face all painted up like she looked like a marshmallow.
I hope not.
That's a great line when Leia says, "I'm not a committee."
Yeah.
You're one. I never noticed that. I am not a committee. You're one person.
Leia does.
Oh boy, what a great script.
Yeah, Leia does have some great banter with Han, and that's why I do like her. Is the one-liner kind of dialogue bits that she gets. I just wish the character was a little bit more fleshed out. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I think it's refreshing to hear somebody talking about this movie and actually finding some criticisms. Because I never thought about all that stuff. And yes, it's a brilliant film. But I'm just saying, like it's nice to, because me, I haven't thought about these as much as I, would like to. I've just never spent a lot of time with them.
And fair enough.
And so like I haven't thought about all that stuff. But it's fun to talk to somebody that's a huge fan of these. That's objective enough to go, here's a thing I'm not sure about.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's how I'm trying to be, because I don't want to look at these, and gush over them, be purely fanboyish about them. Like, this is honestly probably my favorite movie ever made.
Oh wow! Yeah,
I think this is the movie that I've watched the most, and it's had the most effect on me. So, I want to look at it as it is, not as I'd like it to be. I guess, in the same way that Luke likes to look at the galaxy.
I wish George Lucas would do that. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a pot shot. I realized, but it's a I whatever. It's my commentary. I'm gonna say what I want to say.
It's my commentary, and I'll cry if I want.
And I'll cry if I want to. Yeah, you would cry too if it happened to you. I don't know what that means.
If the prequels happen to you, you'd cry too. So Yoda's a lot more stern with Luke and a little bit less forgiving than Obi-Wan was, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, not that Yoda's heartless or anything, but I feel like Yoda's got a little bit of that tough love thing going on that Luke kind of needs, to temper him a little bit. Because this whole movie, the Rebels have put him on such a pedestal for taking down the Death Star and allowing him to kind of fall into that arrogance of the war hero. I think that's exactly what he needed.
I think Yoda is seeing something in Luke that we might not even be seeing yet, which is impressionability. He knows that if he goes, and this is in the film, I think Yoda makes a big deal out of him not going to save his friends, because he knows that there's a really good chance that if Luke and Vader meet right now, Vader's going to completely corrupt him.
Yeah.
He knows who Vader is. He knows that Vader's his father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I mean. That's exactly. All really important, and that's who Luke's gonna have to go up against if he goes to save his friends. Yoda knows all that because he has, extensive knowledge with the Force. He's able to see things, and I'm sure he knows. He probably knows the situation. He probably knows what's going on in Cloud City. I would imagine.
Right.
I would assume.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think so. I mean, why else would he be that? Would he make that big of a deal? And well, I mean, what he says to Luke is, "You have to stay here and finish your training," but he's looking at the future. It's not just you must finish your training. It's without it, if you go now, the dark side's got you.
Yeah, and he makes a big deal about the dark side being the quick and easy path in general, but I think what some people don't think about is the potential easy path for Luke here from a personal side. Yeah.
Yeah, because who wouldn't want to go with your dad? I mean, not really, because he's gonna be angry that it is his dad. Right. But I'm just saying that, once he finds that out,
it's not the dad thing is definitely part of it. But think about the power that he would able to wield if he joined his father and co-ruled the galaxy with him. He could, in his mind, gain the power to remake the galaxy as he wanted it to be, potentially. Right? Him and Vader's plan is to overthrow the Emperor and co-rule it with Luke at the end of this movie. That's what he wants to do. So Luke could join with Vader, have all this power, use the dark side, immediately have all of it, and try to remake the galaxy as this idealistically nice place that he wants it to be from that power position.
Also, I think this. I just want to say this real quick for the scene. I think this when he sees the Force vision with Vader, I think the lower frame rate is really effective.
I agree. Yeah.
Because it's sort of slow motion, but it also looks like there's frames missing. Like it's that kind of slow motion, and I don't know what it is, but that's just really effective.
Yeah, exactly we're not in reality, right?
Yeah, I mean they could have done it with a lot of different things, right? They could have put a different filter on it. They could have made it really red or really green or something, and they keep the same kind of color palette, but then they just decrease the frame rate and stuff. That looks so good.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know if they changed that or if that's what it was in the first place. I forget, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's
talking
what it
about
was.
Luke's head inside the helmet.
Right, I think that's what it was in the first place.
But so what you're saying earlier, I think you're absolutely right about everything with that. But I also think that perhaps just in general,
Mhm.
you were talking about like the going the dark side is the easy way. It seems like the way the Force works, you ultimately have more control over it if you go the lighter path and you have discipline and self control and you don't just react to things. But it's also, I think, like the big surges of power come to you faster if you just allow it to consume you.
Yes, that's
And so
exactly
it feels, is that the idea? So
yes.
so so it and I think that's a really cool metaphor for kind of life. That sounds
Yeah,
really cheesy.
and
But it is. Life is kind of like that, where at first it seems a lot easier to just react to things impulsively, go with your gut and your emotions, and you might get what you want right then. You know what I mean? Like
right,
maybe what I want right now is for somebody else to to hurt somebody like they hurt me, but it's going to be harder later. What's it? So that's the easy path right now. But what am I actually doing to people? And I think
right.
that's what's going on. That's the idea with the Force.
Yeah, exactly. And importantly too, that way of behaving is unsustainable. And that's the whole thing with the
That's
dark
what
side
I'm getting. Right.
is you can't sustain that kind of corruptibility and behavior and power for very long. I mean, this it's kind of ambiguous in these movies about how long it's lasted. But if we're talking about the context of like the entire Star Wars saga, the Sith Empire's rise and fall very shortly, and there's many of them throughout the history of this galaxy. So
Well, it's just like evil emperors in real life.
yeah,
It's just
exactly.
like Roman emperors never lasted very long.
Yeah,
There's a lot of reasons for that, but
right.
you know, it's easy to oversimplify
It
that. But
is.
you know what I'm talking about.
And we were
Yeah.
talking earlier during the first appearance of Boba Fett, and I just have to
Yes.
say that Boba Fett is one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and his appearance there, we got a little taste of Tamara Morrison's voice, who plays Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, and apparently what he did for the special edition of this movie is they didn't even get him into a recording booth to re-record Boba Fett's lines. They called him up on the phone and he said them, and
I heard that.
and
I heard
that's
about
it.
that.
That kind
On
of
the
disappoints
phone,
me.
man. At least use a Skype call. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like not a lot of effort was put in. And fair enough, I suppose. Boba Fett's not a major character in any capacity within these movies. But I don't know. In the context of Star Wars in its entirety, I feel like Boba Fett's a big deal. I don't know.
Yeah, but isn't it the principle of the thing?
Yeah.
Because it makes it seem more like you're really only doing this to make money on them one more time and to kind of make people think that they're getting something new when you're claiming that you're improving upon it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, when I hear things like that, I'm like, well, clearly you weren't trying that hard, so how's it really an improvement? I mean, maybe just okay, we gave him lines there, but
Right.
like,
I mean, that line was spoken by a different voice actor in the original movie.
oh, but it was still there.
Yeah, it was still
Well, then
there.
why did they do
Yeah,
that?
exactly. I don't.
There was no reason to do
They
that.
just
They're just trying to make it more the other movies. Are they just trying to create you create more of a sense of continuity?
well, yeah. I mean, in Attack of the Clones, they established that Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett, so they wanted to make his voice sound the same because they're technically the same exact person. Just they would have the same voice.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, it is for the sense of continuity, but I don't know. I think the original Boba Fett's voice sounds a little bit cooler. It's not a huge deal. I mean, I could still watch the movie and not really be bothered by it. Because all of the Boba Fett novels and things that happened afterwards, I can still read and enjoy. But I don't know. It's just a little pet peeve of mine, a little kind of nitpick.
Well, that means that guy got a lot of work in the Star Wars Clone Wars TV show.
He did. I'm not sure if they got the same guy to to voice him in that show, or if they got someone that sounded kind of like him. To be honest, I haven't watched a ton of that show because all of the ideas that they have with the Force in that show sound completely contrary to what I like about it, and they ruined Boba Fett's race, the Mandalorians, in that show. So I didn't watch a ton of it, to be honest with you.
I hope the new one's good. It looks interesting.
Yeah, Greg Wiseman's behind that, the guy that did Spectacular Spider-Man. So I am all in for that.
Yeah, me too. Have you seen the trailer?
Yes, I have seen it. It
Yeah,
looks awesome.
it looks cool. It's that same kind of animation, but it looks cool.
I'm really excited that it's set
But I don't
between.
mind that name. I mean, it looks alright.
Yeah, yeah, me either. I'm excited that it's set between 3 and 4 because we might get to see like Han Solo in the Imperial Academy before he goes off and becomes a rogue. Because that's a thing with him. Like he was, in training to become an Imperial officer and stuff before he left. And I think that would be cool to see Han Solo pre-roguishness.
Yeah, it's really interesting that Yoda has this line here where he says that we are luminous creatures
Hmm.
and that we're not this physical matter because he's got because there's all this stuff, of course, about the forces all around us, and so this idea of like we are uh we're spiritual beings,
Hmm.
and if we realize that, then we have more control over this thing that binds us called the force. And like you said earlier, it's so contrary to what they did later with it. It's
Yeah,
just a totally different thing. And not to keep harping on that, but I just like coming back to this after seeing the prequels when they came out. Like I'm reminded again of, okay, yes, this is what Star Wars is.
yeah, and I hope that the new movies kind of go with this interpretation of what the Force is. Like, I don't want the Clone Wars thing where there's like a god and a devil that represents the dark and the light side. I don't want any of that kind of stuff, you know?
Well, I don't even think that they need to really address it. I mean, as long as they just play it
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I'm not sure they need to give us an explanation for what trying to make it work better. What the other one was doing. I mean, what the prequels were doing. I don't think it needs to explain all that.
Right, exactly. And they don't really explain it all that much in this other than what Yoda knows about it. And I think it's interesting when you're talking about the luminous beings quote that he has, like, he understands the way the Force works and the way we interact with it, but I don't think any of the Jedi or even the Sith necessarily understand its origin or anything beyond how it interacts with us, you know? Like, I think that's an interesting sort of thing in these movies, too, is like the Force is something that they kind of understand, but there's so much left to learn even for the Master Jedi, right?
Well, and I like that because that's indicative of real life.
Yeah.
Even the people that know the most about how things work don't really know anything like as much as there is to know, and so yeah, that way we don't have this sense that there are people that are born who understand exactly why they're here and what everything's about.
Right.
You
And
still have that mystery to life, and there's still some interpretation and free will and all that stuff.
yeah, exactly. And that's the key flaw with the
Yay, Vader killed a guy.
he
Sorry.
did. And that's the key flaw of what I was going to say with the Sith philosophy is like they think they know everything, but they don't.
Yeah.
It's that arrogance. Vader killing his subordinates is really dark, but at the same time kind of comedic just because he does it so many times in this movie. Like he kills like two, three subordinates. You know what I mean?
Just
Like,
keeps doing it. That's always. I don't know why, but that's always kind of fun.
I don't mean to laugh at the death of people, and like the way it's done is pretty grotesque, like him choking people. That's an awful way to die, but I don't know, like there's something about
They're
it.
the bad guys. We're supposed to laugh at that.
I guess, yeah. Or at least
uh,
pawns in a game at the very best.
I was talking earlier about how we have the sense of we do have one of a sense of adventure in this and the vastness of the galaxy, but then at the same time, the galaxy does seem kind of small.
Mm.
All at the same time, because you got that line a minute ago where they think that the Millennium Falcon's on the other side of the galaxy by now. Like light speed gets us like really,
It does.
really, really fast. I mean, maybe their technology is just that good, but like, how big is the galaxy?
Yeah, you gotta wonder. I mean,
I guess it's a galaxy, not the universe, but
yeah, I mean, of course, now that the expanded universe is kind of erased from canon, they can make it as big as they want to, but that was kind of an ever expanding thing too. Like they would just
Yeah.
whenever a writer wanted to have like, I don't know, a, you know, swamp planet or something like that, they just invent a new one and it would be in the galaxy magically somehow that, you know, like a planet that we'd either you know, had never discovered or something like that.
But galaxies are really big.
Yes, they are. I mean, we haven't even, you know, uh, tapped the potential of what's in our own galaxy, let alone all the ones that are out in space. So, you know, you never know.
Well, I mean, within Star Trek canon, they didn't map the entire galaxy, and when
Right.
Voyager went to the Delta Quadrant, they were like 80 years away from home at maximum warp. So, I mean, it's big.
Right, exactly.
I would assume that galaxies are usually pretty big.
Yeah. And there's a Millennium Falcon, and there's the smartest bounty hunter in the galaxy following them because he's the man.
Oh man,
Boba Fett's ship is so cool. Slave One.
Slave One. See, I know Star Wars things. I knew what that was called. There's a so the ship that Jango Fett has in the prequels looks like that too. Is it also the same ship? Is that
Yeah,
also Slave One, or is that Slave Zero?
it is Slave One, and it's funny. Like Boba Fett and Jango Fett have like a different color scheme, and when Boba Fett has Jango Fett's things, he just repaints them green for some reason. I don't know why, and they look like way more used and like dirty and like scratched up. I don't know. It's very strange. Like Boba Fett like painted the things once after he got them for his dad and never did it again. And Jango Fett has this like really shiny armor that's like, you know, blue and silver and stuff. And the same thing with the ship. I don't know. I always thought that
He's
was
just
funny.
really lazy.
Yeah,
He's so
that's
lazy.
the one trait he didn't inherit from his exactly cloned father is being not lazy.
He just got so angry at the death of his father and wanted revenge so bad that it made him lazy. I don't know why. I'm gonna do everything I can to ruin Dan Torrey's favorite Star Wars character.
He's so lazy that he's the best bounty hunter in the galaxy.
That's how. Yeah. Well, no. You're missing it. It's the opposite of that. It's he's the best bounty hunter in the galaxy, and it doesn't matter how lazy he is.
I mean, did you see his competition when they introduced him earlier? It was like Bossick and IG-88, some droid. Like,
Yeah, yeah. They had to pick between Boba Fett, a bowl of fruit, some oatmeal, and a vacuum cleaner. Like that's what they had, and a Gorn.
Oh, Gord.
No, a Gorn from Star Trek. That guy totally looks
Okay.
like
I
a
thought you
Gorn.
said a gourd, like a.
And a Gorn. Because I only make jokes that involve food. A bowl of fruit, and then next to it specifically a single gourd.
Bossick actually kind of looks like a Gorn.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That guy looks like a Gorn. I always thought that. When I was a kid, I was like, why is there Gorn in Star Wars?
In the expanded universe, he's a Trandoshan, and those are the people that enslaved the Wookiees, interestingly enough.
Wow. So we really like uh we really like explore a lot of different kinds of places in this, right? Like we're really expanding out what this universe looks like from the first one.
Yeah.
And we went to a fair amount of places there too. But like here, we start off in like a tundra,
Hmm.
and then we're in the swamp. Of course, not everybody's in all the same places, but like we're in a swamp, and now we're up in the clouds.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they made a planet that's all sky. I don't know. Like that makes so much sense because there are like gas worlds, even in our solar system.
Yeah,
Um,
good call.
it'd be interesting to know, like maybe in the future, like we have mining stations on these gas planets we can use for energy somehow. Like I don't know. That's a conceit that I could see actually happening, which is interesting.
I'm gonna assume that when they made the prequels, they based Coruscant a little bit on the design of this.
Coruscant was created in an expanded universe novel, and uh, kind of described as like a giant city from top to bottom. And
I just mean the architecture, like the
yeah.
buildings look a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
like
yeah. It
Coruscant.
does look kind of similar. I agree. Yeah. I think you're on.
No, I get that. I know Coruscant's one big giant city all over the planet, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, like, yeah. See, I know something about Star Wars, but I'm just saying that the architecture reminds me a little bit of that. I don't know if
No,
it
no, I
does.
can definitely see that. I agree with you.
There's a lot of that in Star Wars things though, where it's like Star Wars has a look, and these buildings need to look like Star Wars
Yeah.
buildings. And I'm like, but you guys need to remember that you're in space and it's vast, as I keep saying. And there's a lot of different kinds of so like Star Wars kind of has a look, but also you got to kind of mix it up some because
Right.
there's different worlds would look different.
See, and I like Lando Calrissian as a character a lot too,
I do
especially
too.
like in this context of this film, because like for Leia here, you have a guy that's kind of a bad boy, roguish kind of dude like Han, but was also, at least at this point, like able to straighten out and be a successful kind of businessman-y kind of guy and an upper class kind of dude. Like he owns this whole mining facility. He's wearing a cape. He's got some
He's
clout here.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, people with capes.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about wearing a cape so that people will take me more
Right.
seriously, Dan.
And not that
But
she,
yeah, also he's just so charismatic.
yeah.
Like, how can you not be taken with that guy? He's super charismatic.
And she doesn't seem like she's ever like infatuated with him other than to kind of annoy Han Solo. But you
Well, the thing is, I don't know that she's. Yeah, you're right, but I don't know that she's not also somewhat charmed by
oh
him.
she
Like,
the charm is definitely having some sort of effect on her. But I think she's letting on that he's affecting her more than he actually is to annoy Han Solo to some degree. Like I don't think there's any thought in her mind that I would rather like have a relationship with Lando than Han Solo at this point or at any point.
Billy D. Williams is such a shafted actor.
I know. I mean, all of the actors in these movies besides Harrison Ford are.
Harrison Ford. Oh yeah, I know.
Billy D. Williams is campaigning to be in the new movie, and I hope they put him in.
I hope so too. I couldn't believe it didn't get announced. I mean, they're telling whatever story they're telling, so there might not be a place for him, and you don't want him to have too many characters or whatever. And I have a theory about that. I think it's very possible that they've got a plan for him. Although if he's campaigning, you'd wonder if they had a plan for him, why they wouldn't tell him. But I wondered at first, so that might even completely negate what I'm going to say. But I kind of wondered if it's not the kind of let's be symmetrical if we're going to have him in the next in the next Star Wars. Let's put him in the second one because we put him in the second one last time.
Yeah, that maybe that's true. That would be cool. How cool would it be to like revisit Cloud City and stuff like that? Or I
Yeah,
don't know. That'd be
and
interesting.
if we don't sort of mirror or parallel in like really subtle kinds of ways, this trilogy with the new one, where it's like there's a lot of things that are similar between 7 and 3, but it is a different movie, and then you get to 8. And it's the heaviest of them, like this one is, and involves some of the same characters, stuff
That
like
would
that.
be
So like I don't know. I could see them saying, okay, don't worry, Billy D. Williams, we're gonna use you, and we're gonna give you more to do this time,
hmm
but we don't need you till 8. Just wait around. We're gonna use you in 8.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. And if J.J. Abrams is listening, he should use that idea.
See, and we have Alec Guinness here returning as Obi-Wan. And I don't know if we talked about this at all. I couldn't remember from the first commentary, but Alec Guinness always called Star Wars fairy tale garbage and never really enjoyed being in these movies, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. But
There's a lot of that with big major actors from this period in this kind of genre stuff, right?
mhm.
Because you had that a little bit with Jarrell and Superman.
Oh yeah, Marlon Brando. That's very true.
Marlon Brando had a little bit of that. Now I don't know if it was so much that he didn't like the material or that he was just in this place in his career where he was phoning it in because he knew he could. There's a lot of talk in that about how like he would like read scripts, he would hide scripts in places on
Oh
on the
yeah.
on the set just so you didn't have to memorize dialogue and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's exactly the same thing, but yeah, you know he didn't appreciate this material. And yeah, the same thing with Donald Sutherland and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but the difference with that is that wasn't that great of a movie.
That's funny.
It's also not as bad as he made it out to be. But
Yeah, and in Alec Guinness's case here, It's definitely not as bad as he made it out to be. And I like
No,
Alec Guinness a lot as Obi-Wan.
I did too. He either ate his hat or he thought that the whole world, the whole all of culture was degenerating.
Right. One of the things that I have to say about the prequels positively in this case is I think
when we get to them, we're gonna have nothing to say.
Right. I mean, in relation to Alec Guinness in this movie, I think Ewan McGregor does a fantastic job kind of emulating that performance and playing that same character. Like he's one of my favorite things about the prequels in general. I would have to say.
I agree with that. And he's got the look.
He does.
He looks like a Alec Guinness. I mean, he's got the look.
Yeah. Leia's right at home at this place, sitting in the clouds, high above everybody else.
Oh, okay. At this point, I can really see that we're in CG territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too blatant. That's really blatant. Ugh. Ugh.
The set looks great.
Yeah.
That they're talking in.
Yes, yes, Dan. The set they're talking. Dan's like, I'm providing context for the people that aren't watching the movie with us, so I'm going to be really specific. The set that they're talking in.
Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher have really good chemistry too. That's one thing I want to say about those two actors specifically. I know I've been kind of dogging on Leia a little bit in this commentary. But I don't know. I think the reason that the romance works as well as it does, and especially when we get to the scene where Han Solo gets frozen, that's where it really gets you, where you get the famous Han Solo or Harrison Ford improvisation where he says, I know.
Well, and you don't know it's going anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's what's cool about it is, you're used to seeing even even at this point, of course, you're used to seeing obligatory romances in action movies and just movies in general, and you're like, okay, so we're just building a romance with these two, and they're doing it in a pretty subtle way, so you're not put off by it. But then you get to the end, and you're like, wow, they have really progressed this to a place. A really natural kind of place where they don't just save some people or the universe or something, and then they have like your stereotypical big kiss moment. They have this really sad, oh no, he's gonna die kind of moment. And it's also not, oh, we gotta pretend, like right now we're gonna say we love each other, but later we're not gonna. No, there's a real progression to it.
Yeah,
it's already happened, and they have to acknowledge it now because he might die.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's already happened.
It's extremely bleak. She feels like she has to say I love you because she may never see him ever again. I don't know. It's great stuff.
I just love how, somber and melancholy of a mood this movie kind of puts you in, but then it's still fun.
I'm having a great time watching this. I don't feel depressed or anything at all, and it's got kind of depressing things in it,
Yeah. Well, the only thing that depresses me about it right now is that I have to talk over it. I can't actually watch the movie and listen to it. I gotta do a job to entertain people. And why do you need me to entertain you? Just watch the movie, man.
Oh, and there's Boba Fett. He's so awesome.
Who cares? We got Vader here, man. What the heck are you talking about? We're sitting here watching. Oh, I'm sorry, because you're a couple seconds ahead of me, maybe. Because we're sitting here watching Vader, dodging blasts and stuff, and you're like, oh man. And I'm like, yeah, I'm with you, oh man. And then you're like, Boba Fett. I'm like, who cares? And then you got Vader dodging and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean.
Also, I love seeing Vader in this context.
I do too.
Like Vader in a big bright room.
It's very cool, and I like that. See, this is one of the things that I love about the original movies is Vader's not flashing his lightsaber, jumping around off the walls to deflect those blast bullets. He's just using his hands. The lightsabers only come out when it's really important in these movies.
He doesn't have to be flashy, and they're kind of they're kind of a matter of ceremony more than anything.
Yes, exactly.
It's not, oh, we need them. It's like there's a protocol, right? There's these people, the Sith and the Jedi, they have a particular kind of honor kind of thing, kind of a way of handling things. I mean, I guess the Sith, they're not really honorable, they're bad, they're bad people. They, they're duplicitous and all of that. But then at the same time, I feel like there is kind of a certain amount of honor between them.
Yeah, I mean, these movies take a lot of inspiration, and Lucas has talked about this from Japanese samurai culture. And
Yeah, you talked about that in the last one.
yeah, and that's something that I definitely latch onto when when we're talking about the, sword fights between these people. Like, samurai would only, fight with people that they sought to be a worthy opponent. Like,
For the adversaries,
yeah,
right?
like Vader's not going to have a lightsaber duel with Han Solo. Like that's not going to happen. He's some
Yeah,
like rogue
Orlando
criminal.
Calrissian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
he's just using that guy. He does. Yeah, he'd just as soon force choke the guy, except he needs a city.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
This is like, especially in the day, you're just looking at this going, "Holy crap, really?"
yeah, this is some really dark stuff. Like um,
With Han Solo
being tortured and
getting
everything.
getting tortured. Yeah, I'm providing context, Dan. These people in this room, the people in the room.
And how cool does Boba Fett look walking down this hallway? Look at his jetpack.
Dude,
It's
we got Darth Vader in this scene. What is wrong with you?
they're on the same level for me, to be
Oh,
honest. I
dude,
really don't get me wrong. Darth Vader is like one of my favorite villains of all time, but Boba Fett is one of my favorite things too. I love that
yeah,
character.
yeah. And how about this guy with the flashy things on the side of his head? How about that guy?
I had an action figure of him back in the day.
Of course you did.
I did.
Yeah, does he have a name? I'm sure he has a name.
He does, but I can't remember. Um, I think it's like some sort of
His
generic
name is.
android name, like he's some sort of product of this.
Is he a cyborg?
Yes, he is. He has a brain implant.
Wow.
Yes.
His name is Korvac Claw Machine.
The claw.
The Claw. I don't know. I don't know why. Sometimes Star Wars names start to sort of sound like real things. I don't. I don't know. Korvac Claw Machine.
Harrison Ford is
This
playing
scene
this.
is really. These scenes are really dark, so I'm trying to provide some levity, Dan.
The way Harrison Ford's playing this is fantastic. Like I totally buy the fact that he was just brutally tortured.
He was blinded.
He was blinded by the light.
See, I wasn't gonna go there. I thought you'd make fun of me, and I didn't want to do that. And then you went there.
See,
He's got
now
no
you have the
shame.
luxury of making fun of me.
Oh, ha ha! You said that thing that I thought was too stupid to say, so I did. Oh, anyway. I know there's some really important, heavy things happening in the scene, but I'm trying to provide.
See,
I love all the kind of like intrigue and subterfuge and stuff in this. Like you got all this double crossing and
see,
that stuff's always fun.
yeah, and again, I'm gonna go back to paralleling with Leia here. Lando's a like pragmatic politician, practicer of realpolitik. He's doing the rational thing based on his self-interest, not according to any sort of ideology or anything or like ethics. And that's something that Leia should have had to deal with as a politician. That like, uh, you know, she might be able
Needs
to
of the
rate
many,
with
man.
him.
Yeah, he's got a. I mean, the thing is, he's sympathetic because he's just trying to protect his people.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
I mean, yeah, you're right. It's self-preserving, but he's also the leader of a whole city, right? Like
yeah.
he is their leader, isn't he?
He is. It's sort of a business corporation mining facility kind of thing that he's responsible for all the workers and their livelihoods. So
Oh, okay, so in that case,
yeah,
he's
he
yes.
is looking out for those people. So that's something that Leia might be able to relate to, but not all that much is done with it. Not that the
Well,
movie really. I don't know. Like if it was dealing with all these things, maybe the movie would be slow, like not as well paced or slower or something. I don't know. Like
well, you may be touching onto a pattern, and I wonder if they just kind of forgot where she came from.
yeah,
I mean, I just the way you're describing, because I wouldn't have latched on to any of that, but like just the way you're describing it, I'm like, I feel like Dan understands where she came from, and these people aren't thinking about it. They're just like, well, she's a princess, and that's her title, and so like she acts kind of regal, but she just acts kind of that way. But then like the way she actually reacts is a lot more impulsive and emotional, and she's still got sort of a I don't know, she got a little bit of a spoiled thing going on, but
yeah.
that was more in the first one.
Hmm.
But you're right, she's not bringing a lot of leadership experience.
Right, exactly. And like she's supposed
to
to
the
be like the
table.
main figurehead leader of the rebellion, other than like, we see Admiral Akbar and Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi. But she's one of like
Yes,
the
yes, of course. I've heard of Akbar. I've heard of that guy.
it's a trap.
That's a trap! Oh, you remember I told you before we started recording that I only do impressions of people who are yelling? That's one of them. That's one that I do. That's a trap! How's
Yes.
that? Is that pretty good? Is that pretty good? Does the trap need to be a little bit longer? It's a trap! Is that better?
Yes, I
Okay.
think so.
All right, thank you. Yes. I'll work harder on that. I had a conversation with Vince at one point about the what is it? Carbonite? Carbonite.
Carbonate, yes.
I always want to say Corbomite because of Kirk's Corbomite maneuver. Why do we have to have two things that sound like that? You can't tell me that they didn't look at Star Trek when they came up with Carbonite. Anyway, I was talking to oh there's Kiss, that's important. Anyway, I was talking to Vince one day and he was like, so when I die, can I get like buried in Carbonite? Can I look like that like when when I get buried?
That would be awesome. I want my tombstone to look like that. Um, but I don't know if we had. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I think it's so indicative of how well Harrison Ford understood this character, regardless of how much he liked playing him. Um, the line for this was supposed to be something like "I love you too" when he goes in the carbonite, and that doesn't sound all that good and sounds kind of cheesy. So he said "I know" instead, and they were like, "That's so Han Solo that we have to put it in the movie."
Yeah, because he's that full of himself even in the face of Carbonite.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to point out that we are still half an hour from the end of this movie, and it feels like it's almost over.
I know, right? We still got the awesome lightsaber, the best lightsaber duel of any Star Wars movie to go through.
Does it occur to anyone that Han Solo was taken out with a quarter of the movie left to go?
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I never really thought about it that way, time-wise,
And
but yeah.
his presence is still certainly felt because we're thinking about this. But like, okay, so this happens. We got another half-hour movie, and that's not going to get resolved until the next one.
Yeah,
So part of the cliffhanger is right here, you guys.
that's very true. Good, very
But
good point.
but like so much of the end of this is all Luke and Vader centered.
Hmm.
That this really is a very subplotty kind of movie, right? Like it really does feel like a second act. Like it feels like we're right in the middle of stuff, and there's all these things that can't be resolved yet. Isn't it cool that that our favorite of these has all of these unresolved threads, but it still is so satisfying as a film?
Yeah, it definitely stands on its own. I mean, you might have, you know, a better perspective if you watch the first one before you watch this. But I think you could sit down and show someone Empire who's never seen Star Wars before, and they're like, "Oh, I want to see one Star Wars movie," and show this to them, and they could have a great time with it and have a fully, um, engaging experience that they feel like maybe they didn't have to watch anymore. I mean, I don't know how you would watch this and not want to see more because it's so
Of
good,
course,
but
of course, but let's remember that this is if it's the second act of a three-part story, and of course each of them is a story on their own,
mhm,
in its own way. But all the meat is here.
mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying there's no meat in one and three. I'm just saying that as a story, if this is supposed to be the second act, and I think it does this well, it is the meat. So what you're saying is that you can take the meat of the story and show it to someone, and they'll be entertained and they'll be interested, and they'll probably want to watch the next part even if they didn't see the beginning. Well, that's like not showing somebody the first act of something that does all the setup and getting them really hooked by the confrontation, and then they'll want to, and then they'll want to continue, and they'll probably want to go back and watch all of it. So couldn't you say the same thing you just said for pretty much every good three-act story?
That's very true. Good point.
Or at least isn't that how it ought to work?
That's how it
That's how
ought
it
to
ought
work.
to work.
Yeah.
You're saying hand me the meat, the middle portion. Hand me all of the dinosaurs attacking in the middle of Jurassic Park, and I'm going to want to see how that turns out.
Right, right, yeah.
Even if I didn't see how they got there, when I see, oh, okay, they're in this theme park that hasn't been built yet, because that's the beginning of the second act, and then suddenly they get chased by a Tyrannosaurus, I'm going to care, because that's really interesting, regardless of whether or not I saw how they got there.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I'm done talking about the structure because I'm probably boring everyone. But that's
No, you
anyway.
didn't bore
I thought
me.
that
That
was.
that was a point that I hadn't really considered before in terms of how watchable this is, and
Oh man, she yells it's a trap too.
it
That's a trap. Is that better? Was that a little better?
was good, I have to
Oh,
say.
thanks, man. Okay, cool.
All you need is to be orange and fish-like, and you'll have it down.
Okay, I can't do that at this very moment. I mean, I know I've got 25 minutes left, but I don't want to get up. You know?
I'll have to eat a few goldfish.
I love goldfish crackers. Oh, you meant actual
No,
goldfish?
I mean,
No,
I
crackers.
love
Okay.
goldfish crackers, so I'm down to eat some. We should do
Because they're
that.
so delicious.
All right, the big lightsaber duel's about to happen. We should stop talking about goldfish.
No, I refuse. I'm gonna.
This is such a great
Oh,
atmosphere. Look at this.
God, it's fantastic.
The smoke, the
Oh
neon
man, all
lights
the
on the
smoke behind him
stairs.
and stuff. Yeah, how do you not love that, man? And I feel like he has really good reasons to make dramatic entrances. I don't think it's just he's the big bad guy in a sci-fi serial, so he makes a dramatic entrance. Like I feel like that's in his character.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm gonna be really nerdy and mention the sound effects of the lightsabers when they turn on,
Oh
Bec-
God.
because if you
So.
notice, the Jedi and the Sith lightsabers in this movie, I think this is where it starts, have different sound effects when they turn on. And yeah, and
Sorry.
and I don't know, the Sith one has always sounded more ominous to me. If you go back and listen to it, because I've watched this movie way too many times, um, I don't know, the Sith lightsabers always sound like different.
Because I go to bed listening to sounds of lightsabers in my headphones.
I do.
Oh, is that
No,
what
no,
you do?
I'm just kidding. But I did have and still do have electronic lightsabers as a kid and would fight people with them. Many of my friends who also had electronic lightsabers, and I always noticed that the Sith ones just sounded more evil when they would turn on. And that's partly because the Sith use synthetic crystals to make the red color in their lightsabers. That is like man-made, and the Jedi ones are naturally a core in nature. So
Dan, I've always thought you were a really brave kind of man. That like you'll tell us so much about your really personal life. That you'll come out and you'll actually expose just how nerdy you really are. I'm sorry, but I can never now have you on an episode of Geeks Not Nerds because. So I'm sorry
no,
about
you're right.
that, but
That's usually something that I have to preface in conversation in real life. I was just in real life mode for a minute there.
you're like okay, so I know you're all gonna make fun of me, but yeah, if they make fun of you for that on a channel called Geekvolution, they're in the wrong place. They're in the wrong place. I love the look of Cloud City. I love the
I
ambiance.
do too.
Um, I like it. There are places where I like it even a little bit better than in the original version because I like that there's a little more going on in the sky. There ought to be stuff going on in the sky.
Right.
It was just something they couldn't really do as well without CG.
Mhm.
There are places where it looks way too CG, but sometimes in the background they have added some subtle, like when you see ships flying by and stuff like that, and like I don't think any of that's very much of that at all is in the theatrical version, and also the original theatrical, and also I'm
Right.
not sure there's even as many clouds.
No, yeah, definitely. I do like that they added a lot of the cloud cars and stuff like flying around in the background. I agree. That is kind of cool. And the stormtroopers continue not to be able to hit anything. I love this lightsaber duel because Luke is totally like not good at this at all, but he's able to hold his own because of his ingenuity and smarts to some degree. Like we see him like shoot Vader in the face with smoke in a second here, and I don't know, it makes him endearing because he's like able to take on this huge, powerful force, just like he was at the beginning of the movie with the walkers and stuff.
Yeah, he's intelligent. They give these characters character traits.
Yeah,
They don't just like throw him in a scene and go, okay, you got this good guy and you got the bad guy, and the good guy's gonna win. So we're gonna have him take a couple of kind of token hits to the face, and then he's gonna swing and win after they jump around a whole bunch of
right.
times.
He almost just lost like 5 seconds into the fight.
Well, of course he did.
Yeah,
Vader's gotta look like the stronger opponent.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I love that he just has to crawl around and swing around on vacuum tubes and
Yeah, exactly. You get the
I
feeling that Vader's kind of playing with him, like
oh yeah, sure.
toying with him.
Well, especially because like cutting his hand off, that's calculated.
Yeah, it is.
He doesn't just happen to do that. That's on
Right.
purpose. Yeah,
Oh,
he's like, I'm
oh
gonna take
crap,
your
I
hand off.
accidentally cut just your hand off.
We've seen all kinds of things where people just lose limbs because it reminds us of Star Wars, but in this,
And
in
even
Star
yeah,
Wars,
especially in prequels when
yeah, I'm done talking about that, Dan. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I feel like I've reached my allotment where everybody that likes the prequel is going to be like, okay, we get it. We're done listening about them. Stop saying that. Anyway,
I love this tunnel, the aesthetic design.
yeah, me too. I never really thought about it until I looked at it just now. I almost said the same thing. Although it looks like he's in, it looks like he's in a dryer. Like at any time that might turn on and just start spinning.
Yeah. And I think that's the same kind of tunnel
It's like an industrial sized dryer.
yeah. That's how Vader washes all of his armor suits.
This is one of those action scenes that's a little more fun when you've seen it already because you're just anticipating that window going.
Yes.
You're looking at that window and you're like, that glass is going to come out, and then I'm going to get to see Luke trying not to fly out of it, and that's like, they're going to be the best thing ever. I can't wait.
The window reminds me a lot of like the front of a TIE fighter too. Like you know how
Cool. Yeah, good call.
I mean, I don't know if that means anything, but I've always thought that it kind of looked like that.
Oh, man. I love that he actually gets hit in the face a couple times with, you know, flying debris.
Hmm.
Like he's like Luke has no control right now. Um,
Just like Yoda said he
he's
didn't.
not prepared for this, and Yoda said he wasn't. Yeah, exactly. If he was prepared, he'd be able to shoot all that stuff back at him with the Force. But instead, he's just swinging his lightsaber wildly.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I've always thought was great about these movies in contrast as well. Like, the lightsaber isn't what makes the Jedi cool. Like, if you like, anybody can technically, like, pick up a lightsaber and wield it, right? As we see here with Luke. Like, he's not a full-fledged Jedi at all. He's,
So he can turn one on and swing it at
yeah,
people.
exactly. But he's not really good at, mastering that sort of craft. Like, you need to be good at the Force to be able to wield a lightsaber effectively and to fight, someone with a lightsaber effectively.
But it's a traditional weapon. I really get the
Yeah,
sense that we use it because the ancestors used
right,
it,
right,
and that it's more of a heritage thing than a practical thing.
right.
I'm not going to mention the prequels right now. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I love that you said in contrast. I was like, I know what he's contrasting.
See, I specifically didn't mention what my contrast was because we agreed to.
I just want everyone to understand that when we actually do the prequels, we're not going to be able to talk about them without talking about the prequels.
Yeah, and
we
we're,
will
we're
actually.
going to have some interesting things to say about the prequels, I have to say. We had a discussion about them that prompted our want to actually do commentaries on them. So
We did. For the longest time, Dan said, I'm not doing it. You can't make me Captain Logan. And I was like, oh, it's going to happen. And because people really wanted us to do it. And I was like, no, we should do it because it'll be fun. I mean, I don't know we'll have anything insightful to say, but it'll be kind of fun. And then Dan came up with something kind of insightful. And now I'm like, oh, we really need to talk about that. I'm not going to say what it is, though. You're going to have to wait. It's going to be our cliffhanger. Of course, we still have to do Return of the Jedi after this.
We do. And I'm going to look forward to that because...
That's the one I know the least.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I've seen it
Interesting.
times, but not as many times as the first two. Well, I think when I was a kid, I actually watched Jedi a lot more than I watched this.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up, I came back to this more.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's awesome. And Return of the Jedi is good, but it doesn't have the awesome status this movie has.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Also, few third acts of stories do, if I can bring that kind of thing back. It's
Right.
like...
I mean, I'm not one of those people that say, like, Jedi is awful because there's Ewoks in it. I genuinely do enjoy Jedi quite a bit, but this...
Dan likes Ewoks. Dan has pet Ewoks at his house.
I wish I had pet Ewoks at my house. That would be awesome.
Dan has to walk his Ewok 3 times a day.
Wicket, come on, let's go. We're going for
Yeah.
a walk.
He feeds him Ewok chow.
He eats stormtroopers
Ewok
for
chow.
breakfast.
Registered trademark Ewok chow. They're in the shapes of different Star Wars characters. Okay, so another thing that maybe we talked about this before, but another thing I always really liked about the aesthetic of the lightsaber duels is that the lightsabers shrink and grow as you
Yes,
hit them against each other.
it's very
I
cool.
don't know exactly what the purpose is of that, or if it's like symbolic or anything, or if I can find some way to read into it and make it seem way more interesting than it really is. But I just like that.
Mark Hamill's performance during this battle is fantastic. You got the shot of his face there with the lightsaber coming at him. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is because think about it. You gotta act like that without the actual beam in your face.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they probably had like, the handles
They
with
did.
sticks on them, but like
Yeah, but still,
it's hard to be that afraid of a stick.
it looks good. Yeah, depends on who's wielding the stick,
That's
Dan.
true. When Darth Vader's trying to hit you with a stick, that must be pretty
Okay, here it
scary.
comes. Here it comes. Here comes the really important part. We're not gonna talk about Ewok, Chow, or anything. Oh man. So at first it looks like the traditional villain asking the hero to join him thing,
Mhm.
and then we find out it's way more personal than that.
This movie does a
There
lot.
is no more famous reveal in cinema than this.
No, I can't imagine being in the theater when this movie came out and like hearing that revelation for the first time.
I mean, we all know it. We've all seen it parodied 50,000 times. But if you're in the right mindset, you're letting yourself get lost in this movie. It still chills you.
Yeah. Oh man, Mark
Now,
Hamill's
now,
no.
uh, Hamilton. Now, sometimes I think just because I've seen it parodied so much, so if that's impossible, does kind of make me laugh a little bit. If I'm just not really letting myself get engrossed. But no, it's a great. I don't mean to make fun of
Oh
Mark
yeah,
Hamill.
fair enough.
There's something about if you put it in the. I don't know. I've seen people parody it. It gets really hilarious. No,
No,
that's impossible.
no, I definitely agree with you. Like, I watched the original Psycho movie not knowing the twist that Norman Bates' mother was dead the whole time.
Oh,
And
cool.
like that was a revelation for me, but like since then seeing all the parodies, you go back and watch it again. Um,
And it's funny.
it is kind of
Yeah.
funny, yeah.
It's always such a really cool experience to to get those big reveals for the first time. When it's really effective and it really works. Planet of the Apes
Mm.
and Fight Club. But like it's cooler, of course, if you get them and nobody's ever told you about them. And I've said this before, but I really lucked out. Like some 11 years after Fight Club, finally saw Fight Club and didn't know how it ended
Oh wow.
and somehow had never had that ruined for me and got to experience it and mind blown and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. No one will, very few people will ever get to see this movie for the first time after it's come out and not know that because it permeates pop culture so much. Like I really envy any kid that gets to see this and didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that like if I have children someday, like I would not tell them about the reveal, and then they would watch it and they would, be caught up in it. But like it's so like you said, like ingrained in our popular culture that Darth Vader is the father of Luke Skywalker. They probably
It
would
has to
have
be
heard
like,
it somewhere else. So like you'd have to censor them completely to all Star Wars things.
yeah, you'd have to give them sensory deprivation until they
Yeah.
saw Star Wars. You'd have to be like 5, and then would you really appreciate it? So my son, I'll give you this quick anecdote about
Sure.
Jason. Sometimes it's a bit of a curse as well as a blessing that Jason's able to read as early as he does because he read some book about the prequels about Anakin Skywalker, and I think it was like one of those encyclopedic books that had like stuff about all of the Star Wars things in it, and so he was able to put together reading it. Jason's 4, but he reads on like a third grade level. He was reading this all by himself on his own, and he learned that Anakin was Luke Skywalker's father, and he's never thought anything of it. He got it reading it. And I'm like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah. Has he ever
I
seen
didn't mean for
Empire?
that to happen.
Has he seen Empire before?
He has, but after that happened,
Oh man.
couldn't have had the same. Oh man, when I was a kid, I always wondered why Luke Skywalker was hanging off a telephone pole. Like, just how like really heavy and bleak does all this feel?
Very heavy and bleak. I completely agree. Um,
Oh. Thank you, Dan. I like the adjectives you used too. That was great.
One of the things that's interesting about this scene specifically is I don't know if the movie like necessarily outright comes out and says it or like communicates it to the point where you would be like, that's definitely what's happening until you saw Jedi. But the reason Leia is able to find Luke and stuff like that, and like hear his plea for help is because she's force sensitive as well because they're brother and sister.
Yes, I always got that impression from it because from Yoda's foreshadowing of it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think she ever does anything like that again.
She doesn't until the expanded universe later on.
I'm really
But
hoping that we get to see her do something with the Force in Seven.
she's a Jedi in the expanded universe when Luke starts up the new Jedi Academy and abolishes the rules of like uh kidnapping children from birth and making them Jedi.
Do you think they'll go there?
That would be awesome. I really hope they do.
I don't think they'd have to. I mean, you can't necessarily fault them if they go someplace else.
Right.
But well, you're a big expanded universe fan. Maybe you can. I don't know. But
Hmm.
maybe you're like, no, that's the only way you can do it. You have
No,
to
I
do that.
mean it all depends on how they handle it. I'm not against any idea. I've seen ideas that I thought were completely stupid be awesome, and ideas that I thought were awesome be completely stupid. So
You can make anything work. You just got to make it work.
exactly, exactly.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Man, I love being a turtle.
That was the last commentary we did before this.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you like that? It all goes back. It's full circle.
The circle is now complete. That's a Darth Vader line. See, I brought it back again.
Well done. I'm impressed. Wow, goodness. This is a layered comment. There's a lot of subtext in this commentary. Yeah.
Just like this movie.
Punch it! Everybody says punch it when they go to light speed. Even Christopher Pike. Even Christopher Pike says punch it now. Oh man, Chewie is freaking out. He is losing it.
Yeah.
And in the theater, you were probably thinking, "Man, I sure thought this movie would be over by now." I don't mean in like a looking at your watch kind of way, but just like we've cut off Luke Skywalker's head and dropped him onto a telephone pole. You'd figure
Yeah.
that the movie is kind of over by now, but I'm glad that they kind of let it sit a little bit and get to a place where like it's still a cliffhanger, but our heroes are at least out of danger, and we can kind of relax for the next couple years before the next one comes out.
Right. And I mean, I'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the ending, but it ends on a sliver of hope, right? Like,
Yeah.
which is, you need that for a Star Wars movie. Like we've been saying this whole time. Um, it's so bleak, and the characters are put in such difficult situations. But at the same time, you do have that sliver of hope that they're able to overcome these obstacles, and I'm glad that it ended that way. I don't think this movie would have been as great, or I mean, it probably would have been as well remembered, but I don't think it would be as great if it just ended like Luke Skywalker hanging off the telephone pole, and then we go directly to the next movie.
We've just decided that that's what it is. Now I gotta
Yeah.
ask you a question, Dan. So Luke has a question. When he is force talking to Vader, he says, "Ben, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't he tell him?"
I'm not sure. I think maybe it was the sort of thing where like
I like that that's raised. I like that they think about that.
I do like that too.
But yeah, what is it you think?
I think maybe it's the kind of thing you were talking about a little bit earlier, where it was like, you know, you trust this monk in the desert, or you trust your father, in how they see the galaxy and your role in it. You know what I mean? Like, look at Obi-Wan. Like the things that he was, what, like from Luke's perspective, what did Obi-Wan accomplish? He accomplished being a monk in the desert who like, scares away sand people by yelling. Darth Vader accomplished building a galactic order that united all of those
Yeah,
planets, Like
he's
even
afraid he'll be seduced.
yeah, exactly. Like you look at Vader's like authority from that distant perspective that Vader looks at it through. Um, it looks kind of attractive.
And also he doesn't see. I'm projecting a bit when I say this, maybe, but like I would imagine that he also doesn't look at Vader as Anakin Skywalker. He's this perversion of his friend
Yeah, I mean,
who
yeah, that's kind of
he's dead to him, and so he's not
right.
gonna tell Luke about it because he's ashamed about it. Well, he's not ashamed for himself, but he's in his own mind, the way he looks at it, kind of existentially or whatever, he's that's not his father. That's not really his father. His father's dead, and so and actually and so when he says Vader killed your father, how much of a lie is it really to him?
Right, that's what I
It's
was
not
going
really
to
a lie,
mention.
right?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, but it's not really a lie. What he's saying how he has decided to interpret it.
right. I mean, no need to apologize. We're just thinking on the same wavelength. I think you're absolutely right about that. Um, that's why I think he probably didn't mention any of those sort of things to him, and he didn't want to see Luke go down the same path that he saw like his best friend go down. And
Yeah.
in relation to the Clone Wars series, we had kind of dogged on it a little bit before. One of the things I have to say I really did like about that series was it did make Anakin Skywalker a sympathetic character and establish a relationship between him and Obi-Wan in a way that I really liked, and it kind of lends a lot of credence to the relationship they're said to have had in the first movie quite a bit.
I'm gonna say something really insightful.
Sure,
Robot hands are awesome.
they are awesome. One of the things I noticed about this ending when I was a kid, which I thought was kind of weird, did you notice that Lando Calrissian had the same outfit on as Han Solo in the first movie? They're wearing
I
like the
never
same
saw that.
clothes. Yeah, it's very strange.
Well, I'm sure. Well, yeah, it's kind of strange, but on the other hand, they're probably making a point with that
Right,
because they're both the same kind of scoundrel.
right, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if you notice it, you might be thinking, oh well, he's not to be trusted.
Hmm.
And they're already kind of obviously Leia is distrustful of him, but it might be sort of foreshadowing of what happens. Although it's not like Han Solo has ever gone against his friends or anything. So I don't know.
Hmm.
It's just that's what rogues wear in
Right.
this universe. And we know that all Jedi dress just like Obi-Wan Kenobi when he's on the desert planet
Yes,
Tatooine.
yes,
He's on
that is
Tatooine.
true.
Yeah,
That is
they all dress like that, Dad. I'm not gonna bring that up anymore. I'm done talking about that.
even on
I'm done.
Mustafar, the lava planet, they dress like that. But
That's
anyway,
where they dress. Yeah. Yep.
um,
It's not itchy or anything.
right.
Sorry.
We got the credit there for Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote this movie and also is co-writing Episode 7. So hopefully
Yay!
that turns out well.
I hope he writes 8.
I hope so too.
But well, I mean, I hope 7's good. But then if it's really good, I hope he writes 8 because then he'll get to write the second half.
Very good point.
The second part of a planned trilogy, and that's even better because with these they didn't even know if they were going to make a trilogy when they made the first one. They didn't know if it was going to if it was going to perform or not. So they made a really good, effective first part of a 3-part story, but they didn't really know whether or not they were going to get going. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked out.
Yes,
So
yeah.
anyway, boy, that would be really cool to get to see him do that again. To get to do the Empire Strikes Back in this new trilogy.
That would be real cool.
That should totally happen. I hope he doesn't parallel it too much. I hope it doesn't open in the snow. Like I hope he doesn't make it really obvious. But
Yeah, it just starts on Hoth again.
yeah. Yeah, except this time, the technology has improved, so now we've got like walkers with like jetpacks and
Like Boba Fett, because he's awesome.
yeah, the Boba Fett walker. Couldn't believe I'm watching this movie and like every time he shows up on screen, I'm like, yeah, it's Boba Fett. He's awesome. Like he's walking around. He's not doing anything.
See, the walkers in Episode 7 should just be giant Boba Fett robots, and then the Empire would win everything.
Boba Fett, like I don't know, does he shoot something? Does he?
He tries to
does
shoot
that ever-
things, and then Vader
Oh,
put his
okay.
rifle down.
Oh,
So
all right. I mean, like he doesn't do anything. He doesn't bake pies. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah, you're right. He literally did nothing in this movie, but he's awesome.
Nothing. You're like, oh, he's awesome. I'm like, man, anybody could have been standing there in that suit and you would have lost your mind. Wouldn't matter who it was.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. He doesn't do anything in this movie.
I don't mean to make fun, but
No,
I
you're
totally
fine.
do.
I think it's hilarious too.
He doesn't do anything, man. He doesn't draw a picture. He doesn't, like... He's not throwing darts. Nothing.
He's not even coloring a coloring book.
He's not coloring in a coloring book. You know, the normal Boba Fett things you would expect to see Boba Fett doing.
And this is cool. We're seeing the art director of visual effects, Joe Johnston, director of Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yeah, wow! Wow, I didn't know that he did this! You just blew my mind!
Yes, isn't that cool?
Mind blown! Oh, man. And he also directed...
The Rocketeer.
Yeah. Which is a wonderful film. And speaking of jetpacks, he was like, I made a movie that had Boba Fett in it. I want to make a movie with the guy with a rocket pack.
And Joe Johnston has expressed interest in doing a Boba Fett solo film. I don't know if they're going to give it to him or not. But
he would be the guy for that.
He would be perfect. He did visual effects on Empire. He likes jetpacks. And he's a good director.
Who has a better resume for that? He designed the character.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he designed it from scratch. I mean, but
yeah, fair enough.
But he
was heavily involved in the visual aesthetic of this movie.
Okay, so he had something to do with that. No, if they don't give that to him, that's a crime. That needs to happen.
I agree. I mean, they already announced Josh Trank is doing one of the solo character Star Wars movies.
Is he really?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's someone else. They announced two directors.
I hope Fantastic Four performs because a lot of people are really down on him about that movie even before we know a whole lot about it. So that could hurt that.
I like the people they've cast in that movie, so I'm going to be optimistic until I see a trailer. And
we've already got casting?
Yeah, wow. They cast...
Oh, I'm sorry, for Fantastic Four?
Yes.
I thought you meant for the Star Wars thing. I'm sorry.
For Fantastic Four.
No, I know. But I'm just saying people are really down on it.
Yeah. I mean, I like... I don't know the actress's name, but Zoe Barnes from House of Cards. She's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. It'll be kind of fun to see her play something a little lighter.
Yeah, that is true. I mean... Who knows what the tone of that movie's... Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
I want to say one thing before the credits end here.
And Fantastic Four. Oh, sorry.
This theme that John Williams has for the credits is one of my favorite pieces of his from the Star Wars films as well.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It ends on this really, really triumphant note just after we got done with dun 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 dun.
Right.
1-800-PHONE-THX or visit thx.com. Quality assurance services were provided by the THX Theater Alignment Program. I should start reading credits more when we do these because that's like so much fun. We should do that thing that they do in what's that? Whose line is it anyway? Where like they read the credits at the end as like different people say, okay, I want you to read the credits as Grand Moff Tarkin.
We should just do commentaries where we read credits. Just do credit commentaries. You know?
Oh man, that sounds ridiculous. or like you're reading down the credits and you're like Harrison Ford, it's a trap.
That sounds like the most boring video ever.
Yeah, it does. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for listening to us talk over Empire Strikes Back. And Dan, I'm so glad we did this. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you had me for it, and I can't wait to do Jedi. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed our commentary on the movie.
Yes, we will try to come back for Jedi soon. We're not going to have as much time between it and the last one. Anyway, hopefully. And thanks again for listening. We sure appreciate you. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Dan.
And we'll see you next time.